Chapter 1. Reborn into this life. The hospital fee for our daughter totals over 10,000 yuan, and it's due soon. But we only have 100 yuan left at home. Are you seriously expecting me to swallow my pride and go beg money from my parents? After all these years, have you ever earned a single penny for this family? You're a man, yet I'm the one bringing in the money to support us all. I must have been blind to marry such a useless good-for-nothing like you. Lin Feng's voice trembled with anger, each word as cold as ice. Feng Shuo remained unmoved by his wife's cruel accusations. He sat there, staring blankly at the scene before him, eyes wide with disbelief. He clearly remembered. 80 years old, his life had reached its natural end. He had passed away peacefully. So why was he suddenly sitting here, alive and well? He looked down at his hands. They were smooth and youthful, completely free of wrinkles. Nothing like the withered hands of an elderly man. I've been reborn. The thought flashed through his mind. Looking around, everything was white. The walls, the sheets. He must be in a hospital room. The setting felt both familiar and strange. I'm talking to you. Don't just sit there pretending to be dumb. You may ignore me, but you have to fix this. Lin Feng raised her voice. Mom, please don't yell at Dad anymore. Dad's already so pitiful, came the soft voice of a little girl, reaching Feng Shua's ears. He turned toward the sound. There lay Guogua, his daughter, on the hospital bed. At an age meant for innocence and laughter, she was instead covered in tubes, a sight heart-wrenching beyond words. Only 6 years old, Guogua was unusually gentle and thoughtful. She never threw tantrums or caused trouble. Ever since learning about her illness, she had become even more obedient, determined not to add burden to the adults around her. Seeing her now, tears instantly streamed down Feng Shua's face. In his previous life, unable to afford treatment, his sweet, well-behaved daughter suffered terribly until her last breath, still whispering weakly, Dad, Guogua isn't hurting. Her death had carved a wound in his heart that would never heal. Even when, later in life, he became worth billions, the grief remained. Perhaps heaven took pity on him, moved by his endless longing for his daughter, and granted him rebirth at this very moment. Maybe now, he could change fate and redeem his past regrets. Guogua, Dad, sorry. It's Dad's fault you're suffering like this. But don't worry, I promise. I won't let anything happen to you. I will cure you. Feng Shuo tightly embraced his daughter, speaking to her as if making a sacred vow. His daughter's illness wasn't incurable, only expensive. In his former life, he'd been powerless. But now, earning money would no longer be a challenge. He gently released her and carefully studied her beautiful, delicate face once more. Dad, why are you crying? My teacher says good kids don't cry, Guogua said softly, reaching up to wipe the tears from his cheeks. Don't think shedding a few tears will solve anything. Lin Feng cut in sharply again. You have to find a way to cover the hospital fees. Otherwise, you could cry until the Great Wall collapses. It wouldn't matter. And don't even think about borrowing from my parents or my brother. You know full well they've been pushing me to leave you for years. The only reason I haven't is because I can't bear to separate Guogua from you. Though maybe that was a mistake. Feng Shuo slowly turned to face his wife, meeting her eyes for the first time with clear intent. There was no denying Lin Feng was stunning. Her wavy long hair cascaded over her shoulders, her large eyes framed by thick lashes. Without exaggeration, even top movie stars might envy her beauty. Yet in Feng Shuo's heart, she stirred not a trace of emotion. Because he knew, her heart had long stopped belonging to him. After their daughter's death in his previous life, she divorced him without hesitation and swiftly entered the arms of a young, wealthy man. He begged her to stay. All he got in return was merciless ridicule. That day, his heart shattered beyond repair. Don't talk to me like that, Feng Shuo said calmly. Back when I was earning hundreds of thousands a month, you, your parents, and your brother all fawned over me like lapdogs, ready to put me on a pedestal. Now that I've lost my job due to sabotage and your father has climbed the political ladder, your family's fortunes have changed overnight, and suddenly you look down on me? I can tolerate all of that. Because honestly, I don't care anymore. As for our daughter's hospital fees, I'll handle them. What's 10,000 yuan? To me, that's no big challenge. Lin Feng sneered. Words are cheap. If you really have a plan, then go solve it. But let me warn you, if the money isn't here by the end of the holiday, Guogua will be kicked out of the hospital. After being framed and losing his job, Feng Shuo's situation had spiraled rapidly downward. Years of financial imbalance had drained their savings nearly dry. Now, with his daughter suddenly falling ill, the crisis had deepened beyond measure. The immense gap between their circumstances filled Lin Feng with deep resentment toward Feng Shuo, making her words icy and utterly devoid of emotion. Feng Shuo said slowly, 3 days. I only need 3 days to cover Guogua's hospital fees. He turned to look at his daughter. Guogua, believe in Dad. This time, I will definitely get you well. Guogua gave him a bright smile and nodded firmly. Go Dad. In Guogua's heart, Dad is the best. Hearing his daughter's comforting words, Feng Shuo nearly broke down in tears again. The more gentle and understanding she was, the more unbearable it became for him to even imagine losing her. Feng Shuo stood up and left the ward. He returned home and opened a drawer, retrieving a bankbook. The balance showed just over 100 yuan. For a family in desperate need of money, this amount was nothing short of hopeless. But the 100 yuan wasn't much, it wasn't completely useless either. It was currently the National Day holiday. Every year during the first 3 days of the holiday, there was a large lantern viewing event, held on the pedestrian street. Major commercial streets were under traffic control, drawing huge crowds who came to admire the beautiful light displays. During these events, street vendors often sold items like balloon animals, hair accessories, and small toys. These goods cost very little, just 1 or 2 yuan, sometimes even mere jiao, to produce. Yet in such an atmosphere, they could be sold for dozens or even 100 yuan apiece. So Feng Shuo decided to seize this opportunity and make a substantial profit. Chapter 2. Obedient and thoughtful. The less conspicuous a small business seemed, the more profitable it could be. As the saying goes, small profits with high volume. Once the quantity picked up, the earnings became quite substantial. He thought carefully. If he sold too many different items, it would definitely become inconvenient. So things like toys or jewelry were out of the question. They were bulky, costly, and not feasible given his limited capital. The perfect choice was balloons. From what he knew, wholesale balloons cost about 2 jiao each. Normally they sold for 5 yuan, but on the pedestrian street during lantern viewing, people would happily pay 10 yuan apiece. If sales went well, selling 300 to 400 in one night wouldn't be a problem. Even if business was slow, he was confident he could still sell at least 120 or 30. So he went to the wholesale market, spent 60 yuan on 300 balloons, then another 10 yuan on a pump. The remaining 30 yuan could buy some snacks or bottled water. After all, this was physical work, he'd need energy. Figuring the timing was right, he headed to the pedestrian street to start selling. Business on the first night went very well. Within just 3 or 4 hours, all 300 balloons were gone. This success came not only from Feng Shuo securing a prime spot, but also from his precise understanding of customer psychology. In his previous life, when negotiating business deals worth tens of billions, reading the other party's mind had been essential to success. So Feng Shuo was exceptionally skilled in this area. The first day's results were excellent. He now had over 2,000 yuan in his pocket. Yet even if he maintained this pace for 3 days straight, he still wouldn't reach 10,000 yuan. Still, Feng Shuo wasn't worried at all. Satisfied, he returned home and slept soundly. When he woke up, he went straight back to the wholesale market and bought another 300 balloons. The first night had the highest foot traffic and the most enthusiastic tourists. 300 was probably the maximum he could sell. On the second and third nights, fewer visitors would come, and some might be repeat customers who had already bought balloons, so sales would naturally drop. After stocking up, he bought canned food and snacks that Guoguo loved, then headed to the hospital to keep his daughter company. Lin Feng worked during the day, and Feng Shuo sold balloons at night. So naturally they split the caregiving. One took daytime, the other took nighttime. Arriving at the ward, he found Guoguo sleeping soundly after receiving her injection. Feng Shuo placed the snacks and cans on the bedside table, then took out a few balloons from his bag, inflated them, and hung them by Guoguo's bed. Then he sat down quietly, gazing at his daughter's sleeping face. This little girl was like an angel, so adorable. Feng Shuo wanted nothing more than to cradle her in his hands and protect her with all his heart. In his last life, he'd failed her too much. This time, he would make it all up to her. After a while, Guoguo woke up. Opening her eyes and seeing her father, she smiled brightly and said, "Daddy." Feng Shuo handed her the balloons. "Here for you. Do you like them?" Being a little girl, Guoguo was instantly captivated by the colorful balloons. She clutched them tightly, clearly reluctant to let go. "I love them. Thank you, Daddy," she giggled. Feng Shuo casually grabbed some snacks, tore open a pack, and slipped it into Guoguo's hand. "Here, your favorite plum candy. Eat as much as you want. And don't worry, there's more when you finish. Oh, and I got you a few tins of luncheon meat. I remember it's your favorite." At the sight of the treats, Guoguo's eyes sparkled with excitement. She hadn't eaten snacks in such a long time. She'd almost forgotten what plum candy tasted like. Wiping away drool that nearly escaped, she blinked curiously at her father. "Daddy, are we really allowed to eat these?" "Eat," Feng Shuo said gently, patting her head. Carefully, Guoguo took out a piece of plum candy, ready to pop it into her mouth, but then paused. Instead, she slipped it into her father's mouth. "You eat first, Daddy." This tiny gesture nearly brought tears to Feng Shuo's eyes. "Daddy," Guoguo asked between bites, "Mom said we're very poor, that we can't even afford rice. So how do you have money to buy snacks and canned food?" "I found a way to earn money. Made a lot just last night. Don't worry, Guoguo. Our lives will only get better from now on." Hearing this, Guoguo clapped her hands and laughed joyfully. "Really? Daddy is amazing." Thanks to the snacks, canned food, and balloons Feng Shuo had brought, Guoguo was in an especially happy mood. In the afternoon, Lin Feng arrived. But she wasn't alone. With her came a handsome young man dressed in a black Armani suit, wearing a Rolex worth hundreds of thousands on his wrist. Feng Shuo recognized him immediately. His name was Guan Yunshui, the young boss of Lin Feng's company. In his previous life, shortly after divorcing Feng Shuo, Lin Feng had quickly thrown herself into Guan Yunshui's arms. Although Feng Shuo knew Guan Yunshui was aggressively pursuing Lin Feng, he never expected she'd actually bring the man to the hospital. They weren't even divorced yet. Doing this showed a blatant disregard for Feng Shuo. The moment Lin Feng walked in, she noticed the balloons, snacks, and canned goods. Her expression darkened. She strode forward and demanded, "Guoguo, where did these come from?" Guoguo was slightly afraid of her mother. After glancing at Feng Shuo, she stammered, "As someone else gave them to me." She didn't dare say Feng Shuo had bought them, knowing that if she did, her father would definitely get scolded again. Lin Feng immediately knew Guoguo was lying. Her face hardened as she snapped, "Now you're lying too? Tell me, who really gave these to you?" On the verge of tears, Guoguo trembled helplessly. At that moment, Feng Shuo stood up and said, "I bought them. If you have something to say, take it up with me. Don't take it out on the child." Lin Feng had known all along it was Feng Shuo who bought them. She hadn't wanted to ask directly, so she'd used this tactic to force him into admitting it. Now she turned furious. You know how bad our situation is at home. We still don't have money for Guoguo's hospital bills, and you're wasting money. Feng Shuo replied calmly. First, buying Guoguo some snacks and canned food isn't wasteful. Second, the money is mine, earned by me. There's nothing wrong with spending it on my daughter. Lin Feng scoffed coldly. Earned it? With what? What have you done to earn money? That's my business, Feng Shuo said. I don't need to explain myself to you. Besides, I don't want to argue in front of outsiders. I need to make money tonight. Since you're here, I'll leave. With that, Feng Shuo turned to Guoguo. Bye, Guoguo. Daddy will come see you tomorrow. Reluctantly, Guoguo waved her small hand. Bye-bye, Daddy. Though Feng Shuo felt a pang of sadness, he forced himself to be firm for his daughter's sake and walked out through the door. Just as he predicted, foot traffic dropped noticeably the next day. By night's end, he managed to sell only about 180 balloons. But he remained unfazed. The first 2 days had merely been a trial run to gauge customer flow and sales potential. The real decisive push would come on the third day. Chapter 3, I Have a Way. He now had a little over 3,500 yuan. This amount was nowhere near enough to cover his daughter's hospitalization fees. Yet Feng Shuo intended to use this money to do something different. On the third day, he arrived early at the pedestrian street. Instead of setting up his balloon stall right away, he strolled slowly along the street, taking his time. At this hour, foot traffic was still light. Only a few scattered tourists were around, along with some small vendors selling balloons, toys, and various trinkets. Feng Shuo approached one vendor, glanced at the small toys in his hands, and said casually, Brother, coming out to make a living during the holiday, must be tough? The vendor gave a bitter smile. What can I do? Just trying to survive. Feng Shuo put down the toy and looked around. Third day already. Probably not many customers today. How much stock do you have left? Think you'll sell it all? The vendor sighed. Not much left, but hard to say whether it'll sell. Third day, too many vendors, too few customers. It's a lean market. Tell you what, I'll take whatever you've got left. I'll buy it all. The vendor stared in surprise, then lit up with excitement. Seriously? You're really going to buy everything I have? To be honest, Feng Shuo said, I'm a buyer from a kindergarten. The principal asked me to get a batch of toys and balloons before the holiday ends. Honestly, so unlucky. I can't even relax during the break. And anyway, the wholesale market is closed for the holiday. Where else am I supposed to get these things? The vendor nodded in sudden understanding. So you came here to the pedestrian street to pick up some goods, just to fill the order? Feng Shuo sighed. Exactly. You know how it is. If I don't deliver on the principal's request, I might lose my job. Plus, our kindergarten director is tight-fisted. He didn't give me much budget. So brother, please do me a favor. Moved by Feng Shuo's situation, the vendor agreed readily. Alright, no problem. I won't haggle. Take everything I have for 200 yuan. Without another word, Feng Shuo pulled out the money and bought all the vendor's remaining stock. He repeated this method again and again, purchasing every last balloon and toy from every vendor along the entire pedestrian street. These street vendors all knew that the third day brought the fewest customers. Having earned enough during the first 2 days, they had lost their enthusiasm and only wanted to pack up and go home early. Feng Shuo capitalized perfectly on their mindset. With little effort, he acquired all the inventory from every vendor on the street at rock-bottom prices. Now, he was the only seller left on the entire pedestrian street. In any business, no matter how small, once you achieve a monopoly, real profits begin. Competition drives prices down and divides customer flow, making high profits impossible. But when you're the only game in town, there's no comparison. Price becomes whatever you set it, and profit maximization is within reach. True, foot traffic on the third day wasn't as heavy as the previous days, but that was only because customers had been spread across multiple vendors. Now, with Feng Shuo as the sole seller, all that traffic flowed directly to him, and it was still substantial. Checking the time, Feng Shuo found a prime spot and began his final night of vending. Just as he'd predicted, tourists arriving at the pedestrian street had no other options. All customer demand funneled straight to him. Despite his exorbitant prices, the lack of alternatives meant buyers who wanted something had no choice but to accept. By the end of the night, although overall foot traffic was far lower than the previous 2 days, Feng Shuo's sales figures were astonishingly high. He sold 500 balloons, 300 toys, and over 100 small accessories. From 6:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. the next morning, he worked non-stop. That single night's total revenue reached over 20,000 yuan. Starting from just 100 yuan in capital, turning it into more than 20,000 in only 3 days, sounded unbelievable, yet Feng Shuo had done exactly that. Dragging his exhausted body home, he collapsed into bed without even bothering to shower. If it weren't for his urgent need to raise medical fees for his daughter, Feng Shuo would never have resorted to such a method. It drained tremendous physical and mental energy and was highly dependent on external conditions. Only under the perfect circumstances, like this National Day holiday, could such trivial goods fetch such sky-high prices. Moreover, if the weather turned bad or some unexpected incident canceled the lantern viewing event, no matter how skilled he was, he wouldn't have made nearly as much. But regardless, the hospital fee for Guoguo was now covered. Feng Shuo planned to go to the hospital tomorrow, pay the hospitalization fee, and also ask the doctor how much it would cost in total to fully cure her. After a good night's sleep, Feng Shuo left 2,000 yuan at home for daily expenses. Prices weren't high in those days, so 2,000 yuan was sufficient. With the remaining money, he went to the hospital and immediately paid his daughter's hospitalization fee. After settling the payment, he still had 8,800 yuan left. He took out 5,000 yuan as a nutrition fund for his daughter. Guogua had barely been born when their family's situation started to fall apart. His daughter had hardly ever lived a comfortable life. Fang Shuo felt a deep sense of guilt toward her, so he wanted her to finally have some good food and care. To Fang Shuo's surprise, when he arrived at the Bingfang, Lin Fang was still there. Guogua's attending physician was also present, and upon seeing Fang Shuo, waved him over. "You're here just in time, Dad. I need to discuss something with you both." Fang Shuo knew this meant they were about to talk about the treatment plan. In his previous life, it was lack of money that had forced them to discharge their daughter and return home. In the end, she died untreated, and Fang Shuo spent the rest of his life drowning in regret and pain. This time, he would never allow that tragedy to repeat itself. So Fang Shuo walked forward and said directly, "Doctor, I already know, Guogua needs imported medication. It costs 10,000 yuan per day for about 15 days. The doctor paused, then nodded slowly. "Seems like you've already done your research." Fang Shuo declared firmly, "There's no need to discuss options with me. I've decided. I'm giving my daughter the imported medicine. So what if it's 150,000 yuan? I can afford it." Before the words even fully settled, Lin Fang snapped back. "Can't you stop talking nonsense at a time like this? Forget the 150,000 yuan for medicine. What about the 10,000 yuan hospital fee? You said you'd fix it within 3 days. Did you?" Without a word, Fang Shuo handed her the receipt and casually passed over a brown paper envelope. Lin Fang opened it and saw 5,000 yuan inside. "I keep my promises. I've paid the hospital fee. The 5,000 in the envelope is for Guogua's nutrition. Buy her some good food. I don't want my daughter suffering any more than she has to. As for the 150,000 yuan medicine cost, I have a way to earn it. Give me 1 week, and I'll make sure every penny is paid for Guogua's treatment." Lin Fang was stunned. She could hardly believe it. Her useless, good-for-nothing husband had actually managed to raise enough money for their daughter's hospital fee in just 3 days. Not only was the fee covered, but he even had an extra 5,000 left. But she couldn't understand. How exactly had Fang Shuo turned 100 yuan into over 10,000 in such a short time? Chapter 4, A Well-Meaning Warning. Suddenly, Lin Fang seemed to remember something. Her expression changed drastically as she rushed forward and shoved Fang Shuo hard. "Did you use the house as collateral? I'm telling you, that house is joint property. If you dare try to mortgage it behind my back, I'll fight you to the death." Although Fang Shuo had purchased the house they lived in together, both their names were on the title deed. The property was now worth over 1 million, which made Lin Fang fear that Fang Shuo might secretly pledge it without her knowledge. Fang Shuo frowned slightly and replied calmly, "Don't worry, I won't touch a single cent of our household assets. Besides, all the documents, the property certificate, the household registration book, are in your hands. What could I possibly use as collateral?" Lin Fang paused. What he said was indeed true. To protect her own interests, she held on to every important document and proof, following her parents' advice. She found it reasonable and had done exactly that. At this moment, the doctor asked again, "Father of the child, let me clarify. The imported medication is entirely self-funded. No insurance coverage whatsoever. You must pay up front. Are you absolutely sure about this?" Fang Shuo nodded firmly. "Absolutely certain. 100% certain. My daughter is only 6 years old. I don't want her to leave this world so young. And money isn't an issue. I'll figure it out." Seeing his determination, the doctor handed him a consent form for using imported medication. According to the document, the full payment for the imported drugs must be settled within 1 week before treatment could begin. Without hesitation, Fang Shuo signed his name. Lin Fang snorted coldly. "You've signed your name. Just make sure you keep your promise. Don't end up unable to pay and embarrass me and our daughter in front of others." With that, she turned and walked away, not even sparing Fang Shuo another glance. Fang Shuo sat beside Guogua's bed and placed the leftover toys from yesterday's sales by her pillow. Seeing the toys, Guogua immediately brightened up with joy. After playing for a while, she suddenly looked up at Fang Shuo and said, "Dad, I don't want treatment anymore." His face instantly darkened. He snapped, "What nonsense are you saying? You're going to get better. How can you give up on treatment?" Guogua looked sad. "Mom said treatment costs a lot of money. Our family doesn't have enough, so I don't want treatment." "Dad, you've been working so hard these days, haven't you? You even have dark circles under your eyes. I don't want you to suffer like this." These words struck deep into Fang Shuo's heart, triggering his tears. He pulled Guogua into a tight embrace. "Silly child, Dad isn't suffering at all. Don't worry. I will cure you, and I'll make sure you live a good life." Raising 150,000 yuan within a week for medical expenses. This sounded nearly impossible, but Fang Shuo already had a plan. He clearly remembered that in his previous life, during the final days of the National Day holiday, Jiangzhou was hit by several consecutive days of torrential rain. The heavy rains destroyed roads, cutting off the transportation of most agricultural products into the city. Before the roads were repaired, fresh produce became extremely scarce, causing prices to skyrocket. Only after about a week, when transportation resumed and supplies returned to normal, did prices stabilize. His plan was simple: to seize this brief opportunity of rising agricultural prices and earn the full 150,000 yuan. After leaving the hospital, Fang Shuo first went to rent a cold storage facility, paying 1 month's rent in advance. Then, without delay, he headed straight to Jiangzhou City's largest agricultural and sideline products wholesale market. This market served as the main distribution hub for all surrounding regions. All incoming agricultural goods from outside the city would arrive here first before being distributed through wholesale channels. Without saying a word, Fang Shua went directly to the pork wholesale section. At that time, the most expensive cut was lean pork meat at 5 yuan per jean, while the cheapest option was meaty pork bones priced at just 1 yuan per jean. Fang Shua only had 3,300 yuan in hand, so he bought nothing but meaty pork bones, 2,500 jean in one go. His action immediately caused a stir in the pork wholesale department. Pork bones were considered waste material back then, practically worthless. The wholesalers usually sold them only by bundling with other cuts. No one had ever come solely to buy massive quantities of pork bones. Other wholesalers coming to restock began pointing at Fang Shua, their eyes filled with mockery and disdain. They watched him with amusement, treating him like a joke. Unfazed, Fang Shua prepared to make the payment when a plump middle-aged man approached and whispered, "Young man, is this your first time doing wholesale?" Fang Shua nodded. "Yes. That's what I thought. Let me tell you, although these pork bones are cheap, nobody wants them. Buying so much will only result in losses." After the middle-aged man finished speaking, another wholesaler standing nearby sneered sarcastically. "Who you're in? Trying to be a good guy again? This fool won't learn until he suffers losses. No point wasting your breath." Hu Yuran shook his head. "It's not easy for a young man to save some money. I'm just giving him a word of advice so he can avoid unnecessary mistakes." Upon hearing this, Fang Shua immediately developed a sense of liking toward Hu Yuran. Nevertheless, he insisted firmly, "I appreciate your warning, but I believe I won't suffer any losses." Hu Yuran had only meant to offer friendly advice. Since the other party wouldn't listen, he naturally couldn't force him. Shrugging, he said, "All right then. Good luck to you." Fang Shua then settled the payment, rented a refrigerated truck, and had the driver transport this batch of pork bones to the cold storage warehouse. Before leaving, Aide turned to Hu Yuran and said, "Brother Hu, right? Let me give you a suggestion. According to the weather forecast, there'll be torrential rain in the coming days. Transportation might be affected. You'd better stock up on goods." Hu Yuran was taken aback. "Stock up on goods?" Fang Shua smiled faintly, didn't elaborate further, and simply left the agricultural market. Renting the cold storage for 1 month cost him 300 yuan, and the refrigerated truck transportation fee was another 100. The pork bones themselves cost 2,500 yuan. Now, he only had 400 yuan left in hand. These 400 yuan served as emergency working capital. He knew he would definitely need it later. After completing all the preparations, he returned home and quietly waited for news about the storm on television. As expected, that evening the local TV station issued a heavy rainstorm warning. Originally, the downpour was forecasted for 3 days later, but even before midnight, torrential rains already swept across Jiangzhou City and several surrounding areas. The heavy rainfall continued nonstop for 24 hours. Although it didn't cause significant damage to Jiangzhou, the intense precipitation triggered landslides and mudslides that blocked a major highway. This particular highway happened to be the sole transportation route connecting Jiangzhou with its main agricultural production zones, the only passage through which farm produce entered the city. Once blocked, it meant all agricultural supplies heading into Jiangzhou were completely cut off. As soon as the news spread, panic buying erupted among the city's residents. Supermarkets and wet markets were stripped bare within hours, resulting in widespread shortages across the city. Chapter 5. Goal achieved. As the saying goes, rarity makes things valuable. When supplies are scarce, prices naturally rise. In a major city like Jiangzhou, there are usually reserves of essential goods precisely to prevent such situations. Still, no matter how well prepared one might be, it's impossible to cover every single need. While supplies of grain and vegetables remained stable, pork was falling far short of demand. The reason lay in the fact that the Jiangzhou agricultural market hadn't anticipated such an event, so they failed to replenish their pork stocks in time when reserves ran low. Now, with transportation disrupted, the stored pork sold out entirely within a single day. This caused pork prices to skyrocket. Pork became something of which there was a market, but no fixed price. Within just 2 days, its cost had increased dozens of times over, reaching triple digits at its peak. Even pig leg bones, normally considered undesirable and discarded, became sought-after items, with wholesale prices hovering around 60 yuan per jean. And even at that price, supply couldn't meet demand. Fang Shua hadn't left home these past couple of days, but he certainly hadn't been idle. He'd been closely monitoring fluctuations in pork prices. Thanks to his memories from his previous life, he knew exactly where the price peak would be. But he absolutely couldn't wait until then to sell off his stock of pig bones. With the entire city facing shortages, if he suddenly dumped 2,500 jean of pig bones onto the market at prices dozens of times higher than normal, he'd surely attract the attention of authorities. Then not only the market regulators and tax bureau, but even the police would come knocking. Fines would be the least of his worries. He could end up in legal trouble. That kind of activity would be seen as disrupting public order. Who else would they go after? So he mustn't wait for the highest price point to sell, nor could he dump all his inventory on a single buyer. That would make him an obvious target. Right now, pork prices were high enough to justify selling. Thus, before closing time, Fang Shua rushed to several different wet markets and successfully offloaded most of his pig bones. In barely an hour and a half, more than 2,300 jean of his original 2,500 were gone. He walked away with over 145,000 yuan. He was nearly at his goal of 150,000 yuan needed for medical fees. With just 200 jean left, selling them off would more than cover the remaining balance. There was no rush now. He could take his time with the last 200 jean tomorrow. They'd likely sell quickly enough. On his way home, he passed by a large supermarket nearby and decided to go in and buy something to eat. He hadn't had dinner yet and wanted to grab a quick bite to fill his stomach. Just as he entered, he noticed a crowd gathered near the entrance. Judging by their uniforms, they were all supermarket employees, clustered around a plump middle-aged man, apparently arguing about something. Feng Shuo stepped closer and realized the chubby man was someone he actually knew. None other than Hu Yuren, the kind-hearted fellow he'd met at the agricultural market. A man who looked like the store manager pleaded desperately. "Mr. Hu, please help us out. Our supermarket has been out of pork for several days now. We know you have stock. Could you spare just a little for us?" Hu Yuren looked deeply troubled. I've already sold everything I had. Not a single gene of pork remains." As he spoke, he couldn't help but feel a pang of regret deep inside. A few days earlier at the market, someone had advised him to stock up, but he dismissed the suggestion without a second thought. Never did he expect that a heavy rainstorm would turn pork into a hot commodity, with prices soaring dozens of times over. If only he'd listened to that young man and hoarded some back then, he could have made a fortune overnight. The supermarket owner was begging him now precisely because he saw how wildly pork prices had surged, and having no inventory left him desperate. Hu Yuren sighed and tried to leave, but the supermarket boss wouldn't let him go, blocking his path with his staff. The two sides shoved each other slightly, voices rising in argument. Feng Shuo paused, then stepped forward and waved at Hu Yuren. "Mr. Hu, what a coincidence." Hu Yuren turned toward the voice and immediately spotted Feng Shuo. His eyes lit up instantly as he recalled this young man purchasing 2,500 gene of pig bones. Pushing through the people surrounding him, he hurried excitedly toward Feng Shuo. "Young man, it's you." Feng Shuo glanced at the supermarket manager and the employees, then asked, "Having some trouble, Mr. Hu?" Hu Yuren sighed. "I won't lie, I'm regretting it bitterly now. I should have listened to you and stocked up on pork back then. Otherwise, I wouldn't be standing here watching prices soar while holding nothing to sell." He switched to a pleading smile. "Young man, if I recall correctly, you bought 2,500 gene of pig bones. I was wondering, do you still have any left?" Hu Yuren was simply trying his luck. He wasn't sure whether Feng Shuo had any stock left. Feng Shuo nodded. "As it happens, I've got about 200 gene left." Upon hearing this, Hu Yuren lit up like he'd been injected with adrenaline. He excitedly grabbed Feng Shuo's hand. "Young man, could you sell me a little? I won't let you down. I'll make sure the price is one you'll be happy with." Feng Shuo smiled. "Mr. Hu, we might say we have a bit of fate connecting us, and besides, I can tell you're a good person. So for price, let's just go with the current market average, 60 yuan per gene." Hu Yuren couldn't believe it. "You really mean to sell it to me at 60 yuan per gene?" Feng Shuo nodded. "Honestly, even at 60 yuan per gene, I'm making a huge profit. Doing business isn't always just about making money. Making friends matters too. I'd like to be friends with you. I wonder, would you be willing, Mr. Hu?" Hu Yuren burst into laughter. With those words, how could I not be delighted? "Brother Feng, before I underestimated you, I thought you were just some clueless youngster. Now I see you truly have remarkable foresight. It's truly my honor to befriend someone like you. You've got yourself a friend in me." The two shook hands firmly, and just like that, their friendship was sealed. With 200 gene of pork leg bones now in hand, Hu Yuren's face broke into a broad grin. Without hesitation, he paid cash on the spot, settling the full amount immediately. Both parties got what they wanted. Everyone was happy. The reason Feng Shuo wanted to befriend Hu Yuren was mainly because the man had a warm personality and solid character. Most importantly, Hu Yuren was one of the larger distributors in Jiangzhou, with access to all kinds of connections and distribution channels. There might come a day when Feng Shuo needed his help for other business ventures. Now, Feng Shuo had a total of 160,000 yuan in hand. Hu Yuren was quite generous. In addition to the agreed sum, he deliberately added an extra 3,000 yuan as a goodwill gesture. Starting from just over 3,000 yuan in costs, earning 150,000 yuan, no one would believe such a thing if they heard it. But Feng Shuo had actually done it. The next morning, he headed to the hospital carrying the 150,000 yuan for medical fees and several bowls of soup made by stewing the pork leg bones. Chapter 6. A Good Talk. Arriving at the hospital room, Lin Feng was still there. Seeing Feng Shuo, she looked furious. "Where have you been these past few days? Do you think that just because you've left your daughter in the care of a nurse, you don't need to take responsibility anymore? Is this how a father acts? You've got no sense of responsibility at all." Feng Shuo replied calmly. "I already told Guagua I'd be busy earning money these days to cover her medical expenses." Lin Feng sneered. "That sounds nice, but where's the money then? You expect me to believe you made 150,000 in just a few days?" Ignoring her, Feng Shuo placed the stewed soup on the nightstand and served a bowl for his daughter. Due to the pork shortage, the hospital meals had been meatless lately, consisting mostly of vegetables. When Guagua saw her father had brought pork bone soup, she cheered with delight. "There's meat." Feng Shuo smiled. "Come on, eat some pork bones. There's plenty of meat on them. And you know what they say, good meat grows next to the bone. The meat around the bones is the most nutritious." Guagua took the bowl and was about to bring a spoonful to her mouth, but paused. She looked at her father. "Dad, why aren't you eating? If you don't eat, then I won't either." Feng Shuo shook his head. "I've already eaten. This is all for you." Hearing that, Guagua finally smiled and started eating peacefully. Seeing the pork bone soup, Lin Feng couldn't help frowning. Pork prices have skyrocketed these days. How could you afford so many pork bones? Don't tell me you used the money meant for our daughter's treatment to buy meat instead. Feng Shuo glanced at her. "The medical fees are already covered. You don't need to worry. The reason I couldn't come to the hospital was because I stocked up on pork earlier. I've been busy running my business to earn money. These pork bones were specifically saved for my daughter." As he spoke, he handed Lin Fong a brown paper bag stuffed with cash. When you leave later, please pay the hospital bill. I want the treatment to start as soon as possible, so Guogua can recover faster and return to school normally. Lin Fong took the bag, opened it, and stared in disbelief. Inside were tightly bound stacks of banknotes. She counted them, 1, 2, all the way to 15 bundles, exactly. She looked up, mouth agape, staring at Feng Shuo with utter shock, unable to find words. In less than a week, Feng Shuo had actually earned 150,000 yuan. It was simply unbelievable. At first, Lin Fong had assumed Feng Shuo was just putting on a show, too proud to admit weakness in front of others, bluffing the doctor by saying the medical fees weren't an issue. But now she realized, she had been completely wrong. Feng Shuo really had managed to raise the entire sum for their daughter's treatment in under a week. Looking at him now, for a fleeting moment, Lin Fong felt as if the confident, ambitious, and talented Feng Shuo from the past had returned. Yet that feeling vanished almost instantly. She refused to believe someone who had been so broken and defeated for so long could suddenly change. Holding the heavy paper bag, she stood frozen, silent for a long while. Only after Guogua finished her second bowl of pork bone soup did Lin Fong finally swallow hard and stammer. Ew. Where did this money come from? Feng Shuo frowned slightly. Didn't I just say? I earned it selling pork. Every penny is clean and legitimately earned. Take it and pay the medical fees without worry. Lin Fong opened her mouth, wanting to say more, when suddenly her phone rang. She answered it, exchanged a few brief words, then bit her lip and swallowed back whatever she'd intended to say. It was a call from her company, some urgent matter requiring immediate attention. She couldn't afford to waste any more time and had to go to work immediately. She gave Feng Shuo one last intense look before turning and leaving the ward. The previous hospital bills, and now this huge medical expense. Feng Shuo had somehow earned such a large sum in such a short time. Honestly, Lin Fong found it hard to believe. If he really had such abilities, how could their family have fallen into such hardship in the first place? So, regarding the source of the money, Lin Fong remained deeply suspicious. She decided she would find a time soon to have a serious talk with Feng Shuo. She needed to get to the bottom of exactly how he had obtained this money. Feng Shuo had felt guilty for not being able to visit his daughter in the hospital over the past few days due to working non-stop to make money. Today, he stayed all day long, only leaving when visiting hours ended late in the evening. With the medical fees fully paid, the doctors began treating Guogua with the imported medication as planned. The effects of the imported drugs were indeed remarkable. Guogua visibly improved, getting better day by day. Seeing this, Feng Shuo was filled with joy. Being given a second chance at life had allowed him to redeem the regrets and sorrows of his previous lifetime. Now, his daughter would never again suffer from illness and pain. Still, curing Guogua's illness was only the first step. Next, he had to ensure she lived a good life, so she would never have to endure hardship or suffering ever again. To live a good life, making money was absolutely essential. Beyond that, there was another reason pushing him to earn money as quickly as possible. According to his memories from his past life, Lin Fong would soon file for divorce and throw herself into Guan Yunshuai's arms. As Guogua's biological parents, the two of them would inevitably end up in court fighting for custody. Feng Shuo was currently unemployed, with no job and no income. Compared to Lin Fong, who had a stable career, he was at a huge disadvantage. Even if the case went to court, he'd likely lose. Therefore, he had to earn money fast. Only by accumulating a certain amount of savings and proving he had the means to support his daughter could he stand on equal footing in court. In fact, Feng Shuo had already made plans. Once his daughter recovered, he would start a business. As for exactly what kind of business, he hadn't decided yet. But that wasn't a big issue. There were plenty of ways to make money. He just needed to find one that suited him. As he was pondering his future, Lin Fong suddenly approached him. Feng Shuo, do you have time? I want to have a serious talk with you. Feng Shuo looked at Lin Fong intently, a strange sense of unease stirring in his chest. Could it be she was about to confront him, to bring up divorce? He nodded calmly. The two of them found a nearby cafe and sat down across from each other. But to Feng Shuo's surprise, Lin Fong wasn't alone. Guan Yunshuai was already seated inside, having reserved a spot for them. They sat facing one another. Ironically, Lin Fong and Guan Yunshuai sat side by side, leaving Feng Shuo alone across from them, as if they were the couple, and he was merely an outsider. After a long silence, Lin Fong finally spoke. Feng Shuo, I've been wanting to ask you this for a while. Where exactly did your money come from? Lately, I've been extremely anxious and just can't feel at ease. Feng Shuo could actually understand Lin Fong's concern. After all, not everyone could earn so much money in just a few days like he had. Just as he was about to respond, Guan Yunshuai cut in first. Don't think you can get away with some made-up story. Think carefully before you speak. Lin Fong might be easy to fool, but I'm not that gullible. Chapter 7. It really is you. Feng Shuo glanced on at Guan Yunshuai. This is between my wife and me. What business do you have butting in as an outsider? To his surprise, Guan Yunshuai puffed out his chest confidently and declared, Lin Fong's matters are my matters. Feng Shuo gave a mocking smile, choosing not to argue. After all, it was Lin Fong who had brought him here. If she herself saw nothing wrong with it, then so be it. Perhaps Lin Fong truly wanted Guan Yunshuai to verify whether the money really came from legitimate sources. In fact, I already told you, I earned it selling pork. A few days ago, I checked the weather forecast predicting heavy storms, so I figured transportation might be disrupted. That's why I went to Jiangzhou's largest agricultural wholesale market and bought a batch of pork. As expected, the buyer damaged roads and affected transport. Pork prices skyrocketed these past few days, and I took the chance to make a tidy profit. Everything I'm saying is true. You can go check the market records if you don't believe me. With that, Fang Shua pulled out the handwritten receipts and warehouse delivery slips from his pocket and placed them in front of Lin Fang. Lin Fang studied the documents for a while, then turned to look at Guan Yunshui. Guan Yunshui sneered. You think people are 3 years old? Handwritten receipts and slips can be forged by anyone. Fang Shua frowned. It's true the documents are handwritten, but they also bear official stamps. Guan Yunshui slammed the table. Stamps can be forged too. Fang Shua was speechless at his childish obstinacy. Forging official seals was illegal. What possible reason would he have to go through such trouble? Just to make Lin Fang believe his money was legitimately earned? What would he gain from that? Fang Shua understood full well that Guan Yunshui's real motive was to make Lin Fang doubt the source of his money and lose faith in him, giving Guan a chance to step in. But such tactics were beneath contempt. Fang Shua couldn't even be bothered to expose him. He no longer had any feelings for Lin Fang, so she could stay with whomever she pleased. Standing up, Fang Shua said coldly, instead of making wild guesses without evidence, why not just go check at the wholesale market? I've told the truth. Believe it or not, that's your choice. With those words, he turned and left. He'd thought Lin Fang wanted to discuss something important, but this turned out to be such a pointless waste of time. Seeing Fang Shua leave so abruptly, Lin Fang quickly stood up. Hey, don't go. I haven't finished speaking. But Fang Shua acted as if he hadn't heard, walking straight out of the cafe. Just as he stepped onto the street, someone called out from behind. Fang Laodi, it really is you. Fang Shua turned around to see a plump middle-aged man hurrying toward him. Hu Laoji, what a coincidence. Fang Shua smiled. The chubby middle-aged man was none other than Hu Yuren. Haha, we're meant to meet. I actually spotted you earlier, but from far away I wasn't sure. Now I've confirmed it. It really is you. Hu Yuren chuckled warmly. Fang Laodi, got some time? Let me treat you to a meal. Fang Shua declined politely. You're too kind, Hu Laoji. As the saying goes, no merit, no reward. Letting you treat me would make me uncomfortable. Don't say that. I really ought to thank you. Without you, I wouldn't have gotten those 200 gene of pork bones. You wouldn't believe it. I resold them immediately and made double the profit. Fang Shua laughed lightly. Still, that's not much money. Through their conversations, Fang Shua had learned that Hu Yuren didn't just distribute agricultural products. He handled various distribution channels. In Jiangzhou, he was a fairly large-scale distributor. 200 gene of pork bones might net at most 20,000 yuan in profit, but Hu Yuren regularly handled transactions worth hundreds of thousands, even 500,000. Such a small sum shouldn't matter to him at all. Hu Yuren shook his head. No. It's not about the money. Like you said before, business isn't just about profit. I didn't listen to you and didn't stock up, which led to a severe shortage for that supermarket I was supposed to supply. The supermarket owner and I have been close friends for years. If it weren't for you stepping in, I would have broken my promise to him. Losing a little profit is minor, but losing a long-term friend, that would have been a major loss. Hearing this, Fang Shua nodded in approval. He hadn't misjudged the man. Hu Yuren truly was honest and trustworthy. He valued relationships and upheld integrity. With that, Fang Shua stopped refusing and agreed. All right then, I accept. Hearing this, Hu Yuren was overjoyed. Excellent. Coincidentally, I've already arranged to dine with Qian, the supermarket owner. This will be the perfect chance to introduce you to. Fang Shua nodded, outwardly calm. Yet inwardly, he couldn't help but feel secretly pleased. That supermarket was quite large for the neighborhood, and the fact that this Mr. Qian owned such a place suggested he had some real influence. Making an acquaintance like him meant expanding his network. In business, connections were everything. Back in his previous life, reaching a net worth of tens of billions wouldn't have been possible without powerful relationships. Fang Shua then got into Hu Yuren's car. In this era, owning a Santana Passat was truly something to be proud of. It also proved that Hu Yuren was no ordinary man when it came to wealth. A little over 10 minutes later, they arrived at Jiangzhou's well-known Millennium Hotel. The hotel wasn't low-end by any standard, and its prices were reasonable, making it a popular dining destination for local entrepreneurs. Hu Yuren had indeed put thought into this. He'd even reserved a private room. Upon entering, the supermarket owner Mr. Qian was already waiting inside. Seeing Hu Yuren, he immediately stood up. Mr. Hu, you're here. His eyes shifted and landed on Fang Shua. He didn't appear particularly surprised, merely nodding with a smile. Oh, young man, you're here too. Fang Shua stepped forward, extending his hand. Mr. Qian, what an honor to meet you. Mr. Qian shook his hand warmly. Young man, I've heard all about you from Mr. Hu. Your foresight and vision. I must say, I'm deeply impressed. Hu Yuren added. And that's not all. Brother Fang's righteousness is truly commendable as well. Mr. Qian laughed heartily. Yes, absolutely right. The three men chatted amiably as they sat down. Once the dishes and drinks were served, Hu Yuren filled Fang Shua's glass to the brim and raised his own. Brother Fang, let me toast you first. If it weren't for you, Mr. Qian here might have cut ties with me for good. With that, he tilted his head back and drained his glass in one gulp. Though Hu Yuren spoke bluntly, Mr. Qian didn't seem the least bit offended. He burst into laughter. You old Hu, making me sound so petty. But truth be told, I really was furious back then. You see, my business has always been built on reputation. My supermarket never runs out of stock, which is why locals love shopping there. If customers couldn't find pork at my store, my hard-earned name would have been ruined. Chapter 8. Ways to make money. Fang Shua also understood that integrity was the most important thing in business. Money could always be earned again, but once your reputation was ruined, you were truly finished. No wonder the other day Boss Qian had stopped Hu Yuren from leaving. As it turned out, Fang Shua's 200 gene of pork bones not only helped Hu Yuren, but had also done Boss Qian a huge favor. Both men were deeply grateful to him. Now the roads were clear again, transportation had resumed, and thanks to strong intervention by the city government and relevant departments, prices had stabilized and returned to their previous levels. After the brief turmoil passed, both Hu Yuren and Boss Qian breathed sighs of relief. After a few cups of wine, Hu Yuren smiled and asked Fang Shua, "Brother Fang, I've actually been meaning to ask, what kind of business are you in? I'm one of the larger distributors in Jiangzhou, but I don't think I've ever seen you before." Fang Shua replied with a smile. "To be honest, Brother Hu, I used to work as a salesperson for a company, but recently ran into some issues, so I decided to strike out on my own. As for what exactly I'll do, I haven't figured that out yet." Hu Yuren immediately became interested. "No matter what kind of business you start, you can always source your goods through me. We could even collaborate. I'll give you the lowest wholesale prices in all of Jiangzhou, guaranteed profit for you." Fang Shua's mind stirred, and he began calculating. In this era, there were two quick ways to make money. The first was property speculation, since housing prices hadn't yet taken off and regulations weren't strict. If someone bought up large amounts of property now and sold later when prices soared, they'd earn a fortune. However, he lacked startup capital, and based on his memories from his previous life, the market surge was still a long way off. So real estate could wait. He could slowly accumulate initial funds first. The second path was the food and beverage industry. After the turn of the millennium, the country developed rapidly, and ordinary people increasingly demanded better quality of life. Launching unique food services at this moment would undoubtedly be highly profitable. He remembered from his past life how wildly popular certain trendy restaurants became, so packed that lines stretched around the block. Customers were even willing to wait 2 or 3 hours just to taste the food. So yes, the catering business definitely had potential. Coincidentally, Fang Shua's ancestors had once served as imperial chefs in the palace, and his family possessed an inherited cookbook. If one had no interest in cooking, such a book was worthless paper. But now, to Fang Shua, this cookbook was a secret treasure map to wealth. Still, while the food business could be lucrative, the initial preparations were somewhat troublesome. Things like health permits and fire safety certifications took time and effort to obtain. They weren't issued overnight. After careful thought, Fang Shua nodded and said, "Actually, I already have a plan to go into the food business. The problem is, it's a bit complicated. Getting a business license is manageable, but things like hygiene and fire permits are tough to arrange." As soon as he spoke, Boss Qian slapped his thigh in excitement. "Huh, Brother Fang, you're in luck. I happen to have a small restaurant that's been sitting idle for a long time. I opened a supermarket and never had the energy to run it. I was actually thinking of selling or leasing it out. Since you want to get into food service, this is perfect. All the permits you need, business license, health certificate, fire clearance. My place has them all. Talk about having a pillow handed to you just when you were feeling sleepy. Such a golden opportunity. How could Fang Shua possibly pass it up?" He also realized that Boss Qian wanted to repay a favor, which was why he was offering the shop. "That's great. Boss Qian, for rent, let's just follow market rates. Don't hold back, because we're friends. Friendship is friendship, business is business. They shouldn't mix." Boss Qian was momentarily stunned. He glanced at Hu Yuren, then burst out laughing. "Huh, old Hu said you were a man of principle. I didn't quite believe it at first, but now I do. Brother Fang, just based on that one sentence, I know your business will succeed." Fang Shua raised his glass. "Then I'll take your words as a blessing. Once my restaurant opens, I'll count on both of you gentlemen for continued support." Since Hu Yuren was a distributor, the price of agricultural products he offered would surely be excellent. And since Boss Qian ran a supermarket, all other supplies needed for the restaurant could be sourced from him. Now that the three knew each other, they would certainly offer each other the best possible prices. So Fang Shua had no concerns about cost. Moreover, he was fully confident that he could make good money through the food business. Of course, catering wasn't his long-term goal. He merely intended to use it to accumulate some initial capital. Once he had enough funds saved, he could pursue greater ambitions. After further discussion, they finally agreed. Fang Shua would pay Boss Qian 20,000 yuan per month in rent, and Boss Qian would provide all necessary licenses and certifications for the restaurant. Additionally, all seasonings, condiments, spices, and other small ingredients would be purchased from Boss Qian. The key raw ingredients, however, would be supplied by Hu Yuren. After settling the matter, Hu Yuren was especially pleased, as he had not only made a friend but also gained a new customer, truly killing two birds with one stone. In his excitement, he couldn't help but ask, "Brother Fang, exactly what kind of cuisine are you planning for your restaurant? Give me a hint, so I can prepare in advance." Fang Shua smiled mysteriously and said just 2 words, "Frog legs." At that, both Boss Qian and Hu Yuren froze. "Frog legs?" they asked simultaneously. Fang Shua nodded. Hu Yuren chuckled wryly. "Brother Fang, I've got to give you some advice. Are you really sure about this? Frog legs don't sell well at the farmer's market, mainly because no one knows how to clean them properly. Not even ordinary folks. Most restaurants don't know how to handle them either. Cooking frog legs is tricky. Cook them too long and the meat turns tough. Undercook them and they're unsafe to eat. That's why many people avoid stocking them." Fang Shua laughed it off. Somebody has to be the first to try something new, and I'm willing to be that person. His confidence came from having already found a solution. If people didn't know how to cook them, why not skip cooking altogether? By turning frog legs into a hot pot dish, he could completely avoid the pitfalls of preparation. Since diners would cook the food themselves, quality wouldn't depend on the chef. At this point in time, while hot pot restaurants existed, they were still rare. Most served beef and mutton. Using frog legs in hot pot was practically unheard of. With his family's inherited recipe, he could focus on perfecting the broth. He was certain that as long as the soup base tasted amazing and sparked curiosity, business would boom. Still, he knew such a venture couldn't last long. Once successful, copycats would inevitably pop up. When competition arose and customers were divided, profits would vanish. He never intended to stay in this business for long, maybe a month or two at most, before moving on to something else. Seeing Feng Shuo so determined, Boss Qian and Hu Yuren stopped trying to dissuade him. Everyone had their own plans, and while they could offer opinions, they couldn't control another's choices. From then on, they dropped the topic and simply enjoyed drinking, chatting, and eating. After the meal ended and everyone was full, Boss Qian stood up and said, "Come on, Brother Feng, let me take you to see the shop." Chapter 9, Future Plans. Still riding the high of excitement, the three of them headed to the restaurant space recommended by Boss Qian. The place was sizable, easily capable of accommodating 200 or 300 guests at once. The decor wasn't outdated, just thick with dust from long disuse. This posed no problem at all for Feng Shuo. With just a thorough cleaning, the place could open immediately, saving him the hassle and expense of renovations. It was perfect. After touring the interior, Feng Shuo was thoroughly pleased. "Brother Qian, this shop is great. I'm sold. Even if you wanted to back out now, it's too late, because I'm taking it." Boss Qian laughed heartily. "Glad you like it. Honestly, Brother Feng, meeting you has been lucky for me too. Not only will I collect rent, but you're sourcing your supplies through my store as well. In that sense, you're not just a tenant, you're a customer." Hu Yuren asked, "Brother Feng, when do you plan to open?" Feng Shuo thought for a moment. "The sooner, the better. I'll clean the place first, then hire a few waiters. Once everything's ready, we can open. I estimate about a week should be enough." Hu Yuren slapped his chest confidently. "If there's anything you need, just say the word." Boss Qian chimed in. "Same goes for me. Let me know if you need help with anything." Feng Shuo smiled. "Then I'll thank both of you brothers in advance." All three were in high spirits. Boss Qian handed over the keys and reminded Feng Shuo to come pick up the business license, health permit, and fire safety certificate the next day. After wrapping things up, they parted ways. Instead of going home, Feng Shuo went straight to the labor market. He needed to hire servers and kitchen assistants. Since he'd be running a hot pot restaurant, he wouldn't need an actual chef, just staff to slice ingredients and arrange platters. Because his offered wages were much higher than average, quite a number of applicants showed up. He carefully selected several young women who looked presentable to serve as waitresses, and a few bright-eyed, sharp-looking young men to assist in the kitchen. Feng Shuo collected their contact information, told them to wait for further notice, and then left the labor market. The next day, Feng Shuo returned to the shop. For 200 yuan, he hired 2 street cleaners to scrub the entire space spotless. Then he went to Boss Qian's supermarket and gave him a detailed list of everything he needed. Once Boss Qian delivered the supplies, Feng Shuo had Hu Yuren bring over the reserved shipment of bullfrogs. As for payment, Feng Shuo had agreed with Boss Qian and Hu Yuren to settle accounts monthly. Right now, he didn't have enough cash on hand. The funds would only come once the hot pot restaurant started operating. The 10,000 yuan he had left was set aside as emergency reserve and operating capital, to be used only if absolutely necessary. Considering the initial stage of opening, he didn't want to overstock. So he asked Hu Yuren to deliver only 2,000 bullfrogs for now. At the time, the wholesale price for bullfrogs hovered between 1.5 and 2 yuan each. However, due to oversupply and sluggish sales in the market, Hu Yuren slashed the price down to just 1 yuan per frog. This significantly reduced Feng Shuo's procurement costs. With everything finally in place, his restaurant was nearly ready to open. The first step of a long journey was about to be taken. Even though Feng Shuo had lived this life before, a small thrill stirred within him. When he returned home, he was surprised to find Lin Feng already there. By rights, she should still have been at the hospital with Guogua, yet for some reason, she had come back early. When Lin Feng saw Feng Shuo, she spoke first. "Feng Shuo, come here. I have something to discuss with you." He walked over and sat across from her. "What is it? Go ahead." "The doctor spoke with me today. Guogua is recovering very well, and her treatment is nearly complete. If nothing unexpected happens next week, she'll be able to be discharged." Hearing this, Feng Shuo's heart leapt with emotion. The tragedy of his past life had finally been undone. His efforts had not been in vain. His daughter was cured. He quickly calmed himself and nodded. "I'll handle the paperwork and bring our daughter home." Lin Feng said flatly, "The reason I specifically called you here is to talk about what comes next after Guogua leaves the hospital." Feng Shuo blinked. "After she's discharged?" In his previous life, his daughter had passed away, so he'd never considered what life would look like after recovery. Now that Lin Feng brought it up, he suddenly realized he needed to plan for Guogua's future. By age, Guogua was old enough to start elementary school, but based on household registration allocation, she would only be eligible to attend a nearby ordinary primary school. Feng Shuo well understood the importance of education in the future. Choosing an elementary school with high educational quality now would have a long-term impact on the upcoming middle school and college entrance exams. In comparison, private elementary schools offered better education than public ones. However, the annual tuition for private schools was extremely high, far beyond what an ordinary family could afford. But money was no issue for Feng Shuo. His hot pot restaurant was about to open, and even conservatively speaking, daily revenues of 10 to 20,000 yuan would be easily achievable. After deducting costs, employee salaries, and taxes, his monthly income would still be at least over 100,000 yuan. Moreover, Fang Shuo didn't intend to stay in the food service industry long term. He had even bigger profit-making plans ahead. So this tuition fee was absolutely no burden for him. You're talking about Guo starting elementary school next year, right? Fang Shuo asked. Yes. Although we still have over half a year, it's always better to act early rather than rush later. If we don't move now, it'll be too late when the time comes, Lin Fang said. Fang Shuo nodded. You're right. I'd like to hear your thoughts first. Guo's household registration is under our home, but the only school near us is quite ordinary. The school near my parents' place, however, is a city-level key elementary school. So I think we should transfer Guo's hukou to my parents' residence. Fang Shuo frowned. Your parents. As he spoke, he immediately recalled his in-laws' cold faces and his brother-in-law's sarcastic remarks. When he had been framed and lost his job, his father-in-law happened to get promoted and their family situation improved. From then on, they treated Fang Shuo with increasing coldness, and his brother-in-law never missed a chance to mock him. If he wanted to transfer his daughter's hukou to his in-laws' home, wouldn't he be exposing himself completely to their scorn? I disagree. The school near your parents' place is indeed good, but compared to a private school, it still falls short. I've already made up my mind. Guo should attend a private elementary school, Fang Shuo declared firmly. Lin Fang snorted coldly. Stop dreaming. A private school charges 20,000 yuan per semester just for tuition, not counting various miscellaneous fees. It's at least 30,000 per semester. That's 60,000 a year. Over 5 years, that totals 300,000. And you, an unemployed drifter, where exactly do you plan to get 300,000 yuan from? Chapter 10, Booming Business. Fang Shuo said ly, I have my own way. You don't need to worry about it. If I can turn 150,000 in a week, what's 300,000? Lin Fang was speechless. You? Truthfully, she still doubted where the money came from. Guan Yunshui had told her it was impossible to earn so much in such a short time unless one resorted to illegal activities. Considering Guan Yunshui, who started his own company at such a young age, must be highly capable. If even he said it couldn't be done, then Fang Shuo probably did something unlawful. It's just that it hadn't been discovered yet. But just because it hadn't surfaced now didn't mean it never would. What if Fang Shuo got arrested and sentenced for his crimes? Then both she and her daughter would carry the shame for life. Thus, encouraged by Guan Yunshui, Lin Fang began contemplating divorce from Fang Shuo. She had entertained this idea before, but now it grew stronger. It was only because their daughter was still too young that Lin Fang couldn't bring herself to make a decision. She didn't know what to say, but inside, she was furious. After a long silence, she finally managed to say, in any case, I'll go ask my parents first whether they're willing to let Guo's household registration be under their name. If they agree, that's perfect. If not, I'll have to find another way. As for that private elementary school, I suggest you stop dreaming about it. With that, she turned around and walked back into her bedroom. Fang Shuo shook his head with a bitter smile and lay down directly on the sofa. They had been sleeping in separate rooms for quite some time now. Ever since Fang Shuo lost his job, Lin Fang had refused to let him touch her. The next morning, after getting up, Lin Fang dressed extravagantly and left the house. Fang Shuo walked to the window and glanced down. Sure enough, he saw Guan Yunshui waiting downstairs in his car. They laughed and chatted as they got into the car and drove off. Though Fang Shuo and Lin Fang no longer shared any affection, seeing this scene still made him feel irritated. They weren't divorced yet, so why was she openly appearing together with Guan Yunshui like this, without fear of others gossiping? Despite his displeasure, Fang Shuo quickly regained his composure. He had something important today, the grand opening of his hot pot restaurant. First, he went to the hospital, spending the entire day with Guo. Near evening, Lin Fang arrived to take over. After leaving the hospital, Fang Shuo headed straight to his restaurant, where everything was ready and waiting for him. Hu Yurin and Boss Qian truly proved to be good friends. They brought a drum and gong ensemble to celebrate, creating a lively atmosphere for Fang Shuo, who set off firecrackers in front of the shop to officially mark the opening. He chose not to open during the day, instead deliberately waiting until now, just before night market hours, to make some noise and attract attention. This way, curious passers-by would come to see what was going on, naturally bringing in customers. To support Fang Shuo, Hu Yurin and Boss Qian brought many friends to dine here. Meanwhile, Fang Shuo offered enormous opening day discounts to attract more patrons. People are naturally drawn to bargains, so when they saw such huge discounts, they all wanted to come in and try something new. All these were tactics Fang Shuo had learned from his past life's business experience. Some discounts might appear massive and seem to cause the merchant great losses, but in reality, they had been carefully calculated. Although prices were lower, if sales volume increased significantly, the business would definitely not lose money. On the contrary, once the drop in price reached a certain ratio with the rise in sales volume, profits could actually be maximized. The main ingredient of the hot pot was bullfrog, while the broth was prepared using a secret family recipe handed down through generations, personally adjusted by Fang Shuo. Judging by current reactions, the feedback was excellent. Hu Yurin and Boss Qian originally brought friends just to show support, but after tasting the food, they all praised its flavor, saying sincerely they would return again. Just as Fang Shuo had anticipated, as long as the broth tasted exceptional, customers wouldn't mind how the bullfrog was cooked. Besides, everyone dipped their own ingredients into the pot, so there was no one else to blame if the result wasn't perfect. Using bullfrog as the primary ingredient gave regular diners, accustomed to beef and lamb hot pots, a sense of novelty along with the unique freshness of bullfrog. As a result, incoming guests kept placing additional orders, while pedestrians passing by were also gradually attracted. Many stopped to watch, while others couldn't resist the temptation and entered to try. As time passed, more and more people came in to taste the food. By the end of business hours, Feng Shuo checked the accounts and found that revenue had reached over 10,000 yuan. Such massive sales on the very first day greatly strengthened Feng Shuo's confidence. This was only the beginning. The concept of bullfrog hot pot itself was fresh and novel, so it quickly gained popularity. Within just 1 week, the restaurant was already packed to capacity. A steady stream of customers came to try the novelty, and at peak times, there was even a long queue outside the restaurant. This booming scene left nearby eateries envious. Thanks to the unexpectedly great business, Feng Shuo's daily turnover consistently stayed between 15,000 and 20,000 yuan. Before long, he had accumulated 100,000 yuan in cash. While the hot pot restaurant was flourishing, Feng Shuo didn't forget about discharging his daughter from the hospital. Guogua had completed all her treatments, and the doctor said the therapy had been successful. As long as she attended regular follow-up appointments with no major complications, she would be considered fully recovered. With beating heart, Feng Shuo finished the discharge procedures. Though young, Guogua was especially well-behaved, having already packed all her belongings neatly, ready to leave the moment Feng Shuo was done. Seeing his daughter's healthy complexion, Feng Shuo felt deeply moved. He took Guogua's hand. "Come on, Dad will take you somewhere delicious." Guogua blinked. "What kind of delicious food?" "Frog hot pot. Never tried it before, right? You're definitely going to love it." Just as father and daughter were about to leave, Lin Feng and Guan Yunshui happened to walk in. Lin Feng glanced at Feng Shuo but ignored him, stepping forward directly to pull Guogua away from him. Gently, she said, "Guogua, Mommy's here to pick you up. We'll go home in Uncle Guan's car, okay?" Guogua pulled her hand free and ran back to Feng Shuo. "No, I want to go eat yummy food with Daddy." Lin Feng's face darkened. She turned to Feng Shuo. "My daughter has just recovered from a serious illness. How can you take her out to eat some random junk food? If she gets sick again, she'll have to be hospitalized once more." Feng Shuo smiled faintly. "How do you know what I'm taking Guogua to eat is junk? I'm her father. I know how to take care of her health and diet." Having said that, he turned and walked out of the ward, holding Guogua's hand, ignoring Lin Feng completely. Lin Feng stomped her foot in anger. At that moment, Guan Yunshui stepped forward to comfort her. "Lin Feng, don't be upset. It's not worth getting angry over someone like him. I've got good news. I've already made arrangements with your parents' affiliated elementary school. As soon as your daughter's household registration is transferred there, the school will grant her special admission. She won't even need to wait until next year. She can start classes right away." Chapter 11, Private Elementary School. Lin Feng looked deeply at Guan Yunshui and nodded, saying, "Thank you so much. In times of crisis, it's really good to have your help." Compared to her good-for-nothing husband, Guan Yunshui was young, wealthy, and handsome, the ideal man any woman could dream of. Feng Shuo had once been the object of admiration among women, but now he was nothing more than a hopeless lump of clay that couldn't be molded. Feng Shuo brought Guogua to his hot pot restaurant. He had already arranged everything in advance, so as soon as they walked in, the staff were ready and they could start eating immediately. Guogua had never eaten anything like this before. Aside from feeling intrigued, she found the bullfrog especially delicious. Watching his daughter eat with greasy lips, Feng Shuo couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. "Guogua," he said, "after dinner, Dad will take you somewhere, okay?" Guogua blinked. "Where are we going?" "You're already behind schedule for school, and this year you're in senior kindergarten. Next year, you'll officially be a primary school student. So today, I'll take you to visit a school. If you like it, we'll enroll you here. If not, we can try another one." Guogua nodded happily, full of anticipation about starting school. But then she suddenly tilted her head and asked, "Dad, does going to school cost a lot of money?" Feng Shuo was taken aback. "Why do you ask that? Mom said we spent a lot of money treating me, and that Dad got involved in illegal business. The police might come and take you away anytime. Dad, if school costs too much, I don't want to go. I don't want you to get arrested." Children speak without filters. Hearing these words, Feng Shuo felt an overwhelming surge of emotion. What a wonderful child. In his past life, he must have saved the world to deserve such a thoughtful daughter. He reached out gently and stroked Guogua's little head. "Silly girl, every child needs to go to school. Don't worry about money. Dad has plenty of ways to earn it. And besides, everything I do is completely legal. The police won't come after me. See this place? It's mine, Dad owns it." Guogua widened her eyes and looked around. Although it wasn't peak dining hour, the restaurant was still packed with customers. "Wow, Dad's actually a boss. Dad is so amazing." She gave him a thumbs up, her face filled with admiration. At kindergarten, a few of her classmates came from families who ran businesses and acted super proud all the time. They wore the nicest clothes, played with the most expensive toys, and were picked up and dropped off by private cars. All the other kids envied them. Though Guogua felt envious too, she never showed it. Now, knowing that her dad was also a boss, she suddenly felt incredibly proud of him. After finishing dinner, Feng Shuo took Guogua to a nearby private elementary school. Before coming, Feng Shuo had researched this school thoroughly. Among all the private schools, it charged the highest tuition fees, but it also had unique strengths. The teaching quality was excellent, the faculty strong, and most importantly, the principal's educational philosophy resonated deeply with Feng Shuo. The school emphasized not test scores, but the cultivation of personal abilities and moral character. As someone carrying memories from 2 lifetimes, Feng Shuo clearly understood how crucial personal competence and integrity would become in the future. As for academic degrees, their importance had already diminished compared to the past. So long as his daughter liked it, he was determined to let Guoguo attend this school. Upon arrival, Feng Shuo took Guoguo to the principal's office. He had made prior contact and arranged for an interview today. The principal asked Guoguo several questions, each of which she answered wisely on her own. This left the principal very impressed, nodding repeatedly in approval. After the interview, the principal smiled and said, "Mr. Feng, your daughter is intelligent and fits well with our admission criteria. However, as a private institution, our annual fees are quite high. For an average family, this could be a heavy burden." Feng Shuo replied casually, "That's not a problem. Since I've brought my daughter here for the interview, I'm fully aware of the school's conditions. Money isn't an issue. I can afford the tuition." Then, the principal guided Feng Shuo and Guoguo through the campus, even letting them sit in on a first-grade class for a few minutes. Guoguo absolutely loved the experience. Especially captivated by the engaging teaching style, she didn't want to leave. As they walked out of the school, Feng Shuo asked, "Guoguo, did you like it here?" Guoguo's face lit up with excitement, and she nodded vigorously. But almost immediately, she looked conflicted, then shook her head. Feng Shuo chuckled. "So do you like it or not?" Guoguo said softly, "Dad, I heard the principal say the tuition is very expensive. I don't want to study here." Feng Shuo lifted Guoguo into his arms. "Silly girl, didn't Dad already tell you? Tuition isn't an issue. I can afford it. Don't forget, Dad's a boss, and bosses are always rich." Guoguo's eyes sparkled. "Really? Can I really study here?" "Of course you can." Feng Shuo confirmed with a firm nod. Guoguo clapped her hands. "Great. I really like it here. I want to go to school here." "Then it's settled. We'll enroll here. In a few days, we'll come back to complete the paperwork, and you can start early." The two returned home joyfully. Feng Shuo opened the fridge and began cooking, planning to tell Lin Feng about the school decision when she came back from work. When her shift ended, Lin Feng returned home. As she walked in, she saw the table already set with food. Yet this sight stirred no warmth in her. Instead, her brows furrowed in displeasure. Hearing her footsteps, Feng Shuo stepped out from the kitchen. "You're back? Let's eat." Lin Feng replied somewhat impatiently, "No need. I've already eaten." Feng Shuo froze at her words, a flicker of annoyance rising in his chest. She'd eaten outside. Why didn't she notify him beforehand? He had cooked for 3 people. How could they finish all this food? Without needing to ask, he knew. She must have eaten with Guan Yunshui. Her heart had long left him, left this family. Lin Feng waved her hand toward Feng Shuo. "Come here. I need to talk to you about Guoguo's schooling." Feng Shuo nodded. "Perfect. I was going to talk to you about that too." By now, Guoguo had washed her hands and sat quietly at the dining table. She glanced at her parents seated across from each other and silently started eating. "I know you have issues with my parents, but it's not their fault. You brought this on yourself. Who else can you blame? If only you had worked harder, been more diligent. Would my younger brother, have looked down on you like this?" Lin Feng launched in aggressively. Feng Shuo frowned. "Is that really what you wanted to say?" "No, I'm telling you, Guoguo must attend elementary school at my parents' place. I've already arranged everything through connections. The school is all set. As soon as the household registration is transferred, she can start immediately." Chapter 12, Father-in-law and Mother-in-law. Feng Shuo frowned. "Didn't I already tell you? Guoguo needs to attend a private elementary school, and we've already had the interview today. The principal said Guoguo is very bright and meets their admission requirements." Lin Feng's expression darkened. "Don't mention that private school business again. You know exactly what our family's financial situation is like. 30,000 yuan in tuition. It's not a small sum. We've spent nearly all our savings treating Guoguo's illness. We just don't have that kind of money for a private school. Can you stop pretending we're richer than we are? Tomorrow happens to be a day off. I've already arranged it with my parents. We'll bring Guoguo over for a meal. You come with me too. I believe if we show enough sincerity, we can definitely convince them." Feng Shuo's face clouded slightly. "Lin Feng, can't you discuss things with me before making decisions?" Lin Feng shrugged. "Aren't I discussing it with you right now?" Feng Shuo sneered. "This is discussion? You've already made up your mind. You're just informing me. Since when has that been discussing?" Lin Feng stood up. "Say whatever you want. Either way, it's decided. Guan Yunshui has been running around pulling strings for Guoguo's school placement. I don't want to waste his goodwill." With that, Lin Feng turned and walked into the bedroom, slamming the door shut behind her with a loud bang. Guoguo put down her bowl and whispered, "Dad, does that mean we can't go to that school we visited today?" Feng Shuo gently stroked Guoguo's cheek. "No, as long as you like it, we will definitely make it happen. But Mom just said Uncle Guan already secured a spot at Grandpa and Grandma's local school. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to Grandpa and Grandma's." At the mention of her mother's parents, fear welled up in the little girl's eyes. Feng Shuo saw this, and his heart ached. With tenderness, he said, "Don't worry, Guoguo. We won't go to Grandpa and Grandma's school. We'll go to the one we visited today." Only then did Guoguo relax and smile, picking up her bowl again to continue eating. Looking at his daughter's young face, Feng Shuo suddenly asked, "Guoguo, just suppose Dad and Mom separate. Whom would you want to stay with?" "With Dad." Guoguo didn't hesitate. "I hate Uncle Guan." Her words erased Feng Shuo's last shred of hesitation. He knew that soon enough, Lin Feng would surely file for divorce. No matter what, he was determined to fight to keep Guoguo by his side. The next day was his day off. Fang Shua had originally planned to go to his shop. Business was busiest on days off, especially peaking in the evening. But before he could even leave the house, Lin Fang had already taken Guoguo out. As she left, she tossed back, "There's 1,000 yuan in the drawer. Buy my parents a nice gift." Even if they're my parents, when asking someone for help, you still need to present a gift. Fang Shua felt angry at Lin Fang's attitude. He deeply resented going, but since she'd taken their daughter, after much deliberation, he decided to follow and check in, just in case Guoguo got mistreated. He didn't touch the 1,000 yuan in Lin Fang's drawer. He had his own money, and besides, wasn't the money she'd left him also earned by him? Following his memory, he went to a specialty antique shop. It was an old established store in Jiangzhou, selling only authentic antiques verified by experts. Of course, being antiques, nothing here was cheap. Despite his resentment toward his in-laws, if he was going to give a gift, it had to be proper. Anything cheap would be worse than giving nothing at all, only inviting cold mockery from his in-laws later. Fang Shua refused to endure such undeserved humiliation. Moreover, Fang Shua harbored another thought. Since Lin Fang doubted his ability to get Guoguo into a private school, he'd prove it to her, with facts. After browsing for a long time, he finally settled on an antique vase. A Qing Dynasty Kangxi Imperial Kiln Celadon vase. Not exceptionally rare, but still a genuine antique. This single piece cost 10,000 yuan. Satisfied, Fang Shua paid immediately, wrote down his in-law's address, and asked the store to deliver it directly. Antique businesses might go half a year without a sale, but one big client could sustain them for half a year. Every customer here was a major spender. So the manager enthusiastically escorted Fang Shua to the door, promising the item would arrive by noon. After saying goodbye to the manager, Fang Shua headed straight to his in-law's home. The door was opened by his younger brother-in-law, Lin Bing. Lin Bing was a classic freeloader. He had no real job and relied entirely on his parents for food, clothes, housing, and spending money. The house where his in-laws and Lin Bing lived was one Fang Shua had also contributed heavily to financially. But it wasn't out of willingness. He hadn't agreed to it at all. Lin Fang had unilaterally taken part of their family savings and given it to Lin Bing. According to her, he was her younger brother, so naturally she had a duty to take care of him. When Lin Bing saw Fang Shua, he sneered sarcastically. "Well, if it isn't my once so mighty brother-in-law." Fang Shua glanced at Lin Bing, but said nothing. This guy used to be like a shadow, constantly trailing behind him, spouting obsequious flattery. But the moment Fang Shua fell from grace, Lin Bing's attitude did a complete 180. And now that Fang Shua's father-in-law had been promoted and their family situation had improved, Lin Bing became even more insufferable, always mocking and ridiculing Fang Shua without mercy. Fang Shua ignored Lin Bing and walked straight inside. Lin Bing was momentarily stunned. Today, Fang Shua seemed somehow different from before. Ever since Fang Shua's downfall, he'd become timid and meek. No matter how harshly Lin Bing taunted him, he'd just endure it silently, never fighting back. But today, Fang Shua no longer carried that old air of subservience. Instead, he exuded a kind of unshakable authority. Fang Shua entered the living room, where his father-in-law Lin Guoxiong sat watching television. Out of politeness, Fang Shua stepped forward and said, "Dad, long time no see. How's your health?" Lin Guoxiong gave him a cold look and snorted. "Thanks to you, I haven't died of anger yet." Fang Shua was rebuffed and remained silent. Sensing the awkwardness, Lin Bing's wife, Shi Xiaomei, quickly stepped in to ease the tension. "Brother-in-law, you're here. Guoguo is playing with Duo right now, and Lin Fang is helping in the kitchen. Please have a seat. We'll start eating soon." Duo, whom she mentioned, was her son with Lin Bing, 1 year younger than Guoguo. Shi Xiaomei was perhaps the only person in this household who still had some decency. She was gentle by nature, an honest and kind-hearted woman. Yet Fang Shua remembered clearly. Her fate in his previous life had been tragic. Later, Lin Bing had an affair while married, brought another woman home, and frequently beat and abused Shi Xiaomei. Unable to bear the humiliation any longer, she ultimately drank an entire bottle of pesticide. Chapter 13, I Don't Care. Just then, Guoguo and Duo, who had been playing together, got into an argument over a toy. The problem started when Guoguo took out the toy Fang Shua had previously given her from her pocket. Duo eyed it enviously and wanted to play with it, so he reached over to snatch it. Guoguo refused to let go, and Duo immediately threw himself on the ground, throwing a tantrum. Seeing this, Lin Bing instantly jumped up and rushed over, asking, "What's wrong, son?" Duo pointed at the toy in Guoguo's hand and wailed, "I want to play with that. Guoguo won't let me." Without a second thought, Lin Bing snatched the toy away while snapping, "Little bastard, what kind of sister are you? What's the harm in letting your younger brother play with it for a while?" Guoguo burst into tears the moment her toy was taken. Lin Bing scowled impatiently. Cry all you want. Like you're at a funeral. No manners at all. Is this how your parents raised you?" At this, Lin Guoxiong sneered coldly and turned to Fang Shua. "How do you discipline your daughter? Always crying. It's unbearable." Fang Shua's face darkened. He stood up, walked over, seized the toy back from Duo without a word, and handed it back to Guoguo. Now it was Duo's turn to bawl uncontrollably. Lin Bing exploded in anger. "What the hell are you doing? It's just a child, and you steal from him like that." Fang Shua replied coolly. "So you can take my daughter's toy, but I'm not allowed to take your son's? And one more thing. If you ever call Guoguo bastard again, I'll rip your damn mouth open. Try me if you don't believe it." Though his tone remained calm, Fang Shua exuded an undeniable authority. "Lin Bing, in truth, was nothing more than a paper tiger. Faced with Feng Shua's genuine fury, he shrank back instantly. Feng Shua returned the toy to Guogua and gently said, "Here you go, Guogua. Keep it safe this time. Don't let anyone take it again." With her toy back, Guogua finally stopped crying and smiled through her tears. Bang! Lin Guoxiong suddenly slammed the table and stood up, shouting, "Feng Shua, what do you think you're doing? You're an adult stealing toys from a child. Do you have any shame at all?" Hearing the commotion, Lin Feng, who had been helping in the kitchen, quickly ran out. The moment she saw Feng Shua and her sobbing nephew Duo, she understood what had happened. She hurriedly said, "Dad, I'm sorry." Feng Shua was too impulsive. Then she shot Feng Shua an angry glare to show her disapproval. She had come here needing a favor. By making enemies of her brother and, worse, her father, how could she possibly ask about the household registration matter later? But Feng Shua ignored her completely. Instead, he let out a cold laugh and said, "When my daughter cries, she has no upbringing. But when your grandson cries, why don't you say he has no upbringing? My daughter has her toy stolen, and you scold me. I get it back for her, and you still berate me. So in your dictionary, you're always right, and everyone else is always wrong." Now I finally understand why Lin Bing is so shameless. It must be genetic. Feng Shua's sharp retort left Lin Guoxiong trembling with rage. He never expected that his previously submissive son-in-law would dare talk back to him like this. In the past, Feng Shua earned over 100,000 yuan a month, so everyone in the family had to watch their tone around him. But now that he'd lost his job and fallen on hard times, who would respect him anymore? Lin Guoxiong had recently been promoted at work and now earned 50 to 60,000 yuan a month. To him, Feng Shua was beneath contempt. He believed he had every right to lecture him. "You insolent fool. How dare you speak to me like that? Do you still think you're the same man you used to be? You're nothing now. Who gives you the right to accuse us of being wrong? You don't even have a proper job. You're barely surviving off Lin Feng's meager salary. What kind of man are you? If I were you, I'd have already smashed my head against a wall and died." Feng Shua frowned. "So according to you, whoever makes more money gets to be the boss?" Lin Guoxiong narrowed his eyes. "Exactly." Feng Shua gave a faint smile. "Then actually, I have even more reason to stand here and scold you. The only reason you're shouting at me like this is because you earn 50 or 60,000 a month, isn't it? To me, that kind of money isn't even worth mentioning. 50,000. I could earn that in a single day." Lin Guoxiong roared. "Bullshit. Who the hell do you think you are? Making 50,000 a day? Even when you were at your peak, there's no way you made that much." Seeing Feng Shua and Lin Guoxiong arguing, Lin Feng quickly stepped between them to mediate. "Dad, Feng Shua was just joking. He doesn't mean it. Please don't take it to heart." Lin Bing walked over, sneering. "Sister, stop protecting him. He's just a lump of mud that can't be propped up against a wall. This is as good as he'll ever get in life. He eats your food and uses your money. How is that different from being a kept man?" Feng Shua replied coldly. "You actually have the nerve to talk about me? Do you even have a real job? You live off your parents, eat their food, use their money, and even the house you live in, I paid a significant part of." Lin Bing turned bright red and shouted back. "The house was paid for by my sister." Feng Shua sneered. "How much does your sister earn in a month? With her salary, could she really afford to pay so much?" Lin Bing was speechless. I. Lin Guoxiong never expected that Feng Shua would dare to rebel like this today. What infuriated him most was that neither he nor his son could counter his arguments. Enraged, Lin Guoxiong stammered. "All you keep talking about is the past. But what about now? What can you do now? Day after day, all you do is drink and sleep. No sense of responsibility at all." Just as Feng Shua was about to respond, Lin Feng panicked and rushed in front of him, yanking his arm hard and snapping angrily. "Have you said enough? Don't forget, that's my father and my brother. We're family. Why make things so unpleasant?" Feng Shua snorted coldly. "They started it first. I'm just fighting back in self-defense. Regardless, you shouldn't argue with my father. Don't forget, we still have something important to take care of today. If you ruin Guogua's big opportunity, I won't let you off." Lin Feng declared fiercely. Feng Shua said, "I've told you many times, Guogua's schooling doesn't require anyone pulling strings. I've already arranged a private elementary school, and Guogua loves it there. She'll go there and nowhere else. You've gone too far. Stop living in this unrealistic dream, will you? Don't you know your own limits? Right now, apologize immediately to my father and my brother, or else we're getting a divorce." Lin Feng gritted her teeth and spat. Feng Shua looked straight at Lin Feng. "Fine, divorce then. In fact, you probably haven't wanted to stay with me for a long time. Let's just split up. Neither of us needs the other." Chapter 14. Humble and Submissive. When Lin Feng heard these words, her whole body trembled. She never dreamed that Feng Shua would actually say something like this. In the past, he had always obeyed her without question, never opposing any of her opinions. Today, however, he actually stood his ground and talked about divorcing her. He had changed. He truly had changed, becoming someone completely different from before. Just as the situation was spiraling out of control, Shi Xiaomei quickly rushed over and said, "Sister, brother-in-law, both of you should stop saying more. This all started because Duo didn't know better. I'll apologize on his behalf. Please calm down, just calm down. Mom spent so much effort preparing this table of food. Surely we can't let her hard work go to waste? Sister, brother-in-law, don't ruin this moment over a small matter. Kids fighting is normal. They'll be fine in a bit." While speaking, Shi Xiaomei glanced toward Lin Guoxiong. "Dad, you also say less. It's rare for sister and brother-in-law to come visit. There's no need to make things so tense. Lin Guoxiong harumphed with a stern face, but fell silent. His daughter-in-law was capable and filial. He ought to give her some face. Since Shi Xiaomei had already intervened like this, Fang Shuo and Lin Fang couldn't very well keep arguing. Besides, they shouldn't say such things in front of the children. Seeing that everyone had fallen quiet, Shi Xiaomei finally smiled and took Guoguo's little hand. Come on, Guoguo, time to eat. Grandma made lots of delicious dishes. You'll definitely like them. After she spoke, she shot a fierce glare at Lin Bing. Quick, bring your son over here. Time to eat. Lin Bing still listened fairly well to his wife. He took Duo's hand and walked toward the dining table. The family then gathered around the table. Shi Xiaomei poured wine for everyone and cheerfully said, all the dishes today were made by our dear mother. Sister, brother-in-law, it must have been quite some time since you last tasted her cooking, right? Fang Shuo glanced across the table. Every single dish catered only to Lin Bing's and Duo's tastes. Not one matched his or Guoguo's preferences. Worse still, one particular dish could trigger an allergic reaction in Guoguo. His mother-in-law, Zhou Ping, clearly paid no attention to their likes and dislikes, and apparently didn't even know Guoguo's dietary restrictions. Seeing so many dishes yet none that she liked, Guoguo pouted and quietly whispered to Fang Shuo, Daddy, none of this food is good. I still want to eat frog hot pot. Fang Shuo smiled gently and stroked Guoguo's head. All right, Daddy will take you later. Although father and daughter spoke softly, Zhou Ping still overheard. Her face darkened. You've got so many dishes in front of you, still not full? Why do you need to eat outside again? The younger one acts like this, and now the older one too. Fang Shuo turned toward Zhou Ping and said coldly, so what if there are many dishes? Are my daughter and I supposed to eat a whole table of pig slop just because you cooked it? Instead of reflecting on your own cooking, you blame others when they don't like it. Your whole family shares the same nasty habit. Zhou Ping flew into a rage and slammed the table hard. What kind of nonsense are you spouting? Don't forget, you two came here today shamelessly uninvited. Nobody asked you to show up. Seeing this, Shi Xiaomei hurried to mediate. Mom, please don't get angry. Brother-in-law didn't mean it that way. Maybe Guoguo just doesn't like these dishes. It's okay. I'll cook a couple more for you later. Lin Fang chimed in immediately. Mom, children don't understand much. Don't hold it against her. I haven't tasted your cooking in such a long time. Seeing all these dishes tonight, my mouth started watering already. Hearing this, Zhou Ping's expression softened slightly. Relieved that her mother wasn't pressing further, Lin Fang finally let out a breath. Annoyed, she cast a sharp look at Fang Shuo, wondering what had gotten into him today to openly challenge her family. To compensate for Fang Shuo's earlier behavior and ease the atmosphere, Lin Fang turned to her parents and said, by the way, before coming today, I specifically asked Fang Shuo to prepare gifts for you two elders. With that, she turned to Fang Shuo. Did you bring the gifts? Fang Shuo nodded. I did. Hearing about gifts, Lin Guoxiong and Zhou Ping's expressions warmed considerably. However, Lin Bing sneered. Sis, with your measly salary, what decent gift could you possibly give? Let me guess, it's some cheap scarf bought from a street stall. Lin Fang forced a smile. What are you talking about? I gave Fang Shuo 1,000 yuan to buy proper gifts. While 1,000 yuan might not buy anything expensive, it shows our goodwill, doesn't it? Lin Guoxiong nodded. Enough talking. What did you get? Show it to me. Lin Fang turned back to Fang Shuo. Where are the gifts? Bring them out. The gifts aren't with me, they're still at the store. But it's fine, they'll be delivered soon. Fang Shuo checked the time. They should be arriving shortly. After he spoke, an eerie silence fell over the entire family. Lin Fang's smile froze on her face as she stared at Fang Shuo in disbelief. Gifts worth 1,000 yuan. Nothing more than a box of ginseng, or perhaps a branded-down jacket. Was that really something for which a store would offer delivery? It wasn't like these were luxury goods. Why would any shop deliver such things? If anyone heard this story, they'd surely laugh their heads off. A moment later, Lin Guoxiong suddenly slammed his chopsticks onto the table. He shot up from his seat and pointed angrily at Fang Shuo. You expect someone to deliver 1,000 yuan item right to our door? Do you take me for a 3-year-old? If you didn't want to buy them, just say so outright. Don't pull all these stunts. Zhou Ping sneered coldly. At the end of the day, it's just because you don't have the money. You can't even afford something worth 1,000 yuan. Who knows how poor your household must be? Lin Bing burst into loud laughter. You probably couldn't even put food on the table, so you made up some excuse to come here and mooch off us. If you can't afford a meal, just admit it. We can throw you some leftover scraps. Consider it charity for beggars. Lin Fang trembled with rage, her voice shaking as she said, Fang Shuo, tell me, what did you do with that 1,000 yuan? I told you to buy gifts. Why didn't you? Fang Shuo replied flatly, I did buy them. And I didn't use your 1,000 yuan. The gifts are indeed being delivered by the shop. They'll arrive very soon. Lin Fang pointed her finger right at him. Even now, you still refuse to admit it. Fang Shuo, you truly disappoint me. Deeply, deeply disappoint me. Do you understand? Guoguo tugged pitifully at Lin Fang's sleeve. Mommy, please don't scold Daddy anymore. Daddy doesn't lie. He definitely bought the gifts. Fang Shuo gently stroked Guoguo's head. At this moment, the only one who believed in him was his daughter. He looked around at everyone and said calmly, believe me or not, it's up to you. I had an antique shop help me with the delivery. What I'm saying is the truth. I don't care whether you believe it or not. After all, facts speak louder than words. Chapter 15, No Face Given. An antique shop? You actually went to buy an antique? Lin Fang said in astonishment. Fang Shuo nodded. That's right. Lin Bing sneered mockingly. What big ox are you trying to swallow? Any vase in an antique store costs at least tens of thousands. With your family's financial situation, do you really think you can afford it? Lin Guoxiong snorted loudly. Don't brag if you lack the ability. You claimed facts speak louder than words. Just wait until no one delivers anything. I'd like to see how you explain that. Zhou Ping coldly added. How else would he explain it? Just another excuse to slip away. No wonder he was so aggressive earlier, arguing with us all. That whole act was probably planned from the start, so he could escape when things got tough. Lin Fang's expression grew increasingly grim. She lowered her voice and demanded. Fang Shuo, tell me the truth. Did you actually buy the gift or not? What did you really do with that 1,000 yuan I gave you? I already told you. Fang Shuo replied coolly. I didn't use your 1,000 yuan. I paid for the gift myself. I bought a Qing Dynasty Celadon vase. The manager of the antique shop promised it would be delivered before noon today. How long are you going to keep lying to me? Lin Fang finally snapped and abruptly stood up. Since when did you become such a habitual liar? Lies remain lies. They'll always be exposed eventually. When that happens, won't you feel utterly ashamed? Lin Bing burst into laughter. Sis, don't waste your breath. He's too thick-skinned to care. Both Lin Guoxiong and Zhou Ping glared at Fang Shuo with utter contempt, as if they wanted to throw him out the door immediately. Just then, the doorbell rang. Lin Guoxiong gestured for Shi Xiaomei to answer it. She quickly stood and opened the door, only to find an employee wearing the uniform of the antique shop asking, Is Mr. Fang Shuo here? Shi Xiaomei hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Yes, he is. The employee nodded in response and signaled to the workers behind him, who carried a wooden crate into the house and placed it prominently in the living room. Then, scanning the room, he quickly identified Fang Shuo and greeted him with a broad smile. Mr. Fang, I've delivered your Qing Dynasty Imperial Kiln Celadon vase. Please check it for any damage. If everything looks good, kindly sign the delivery receipt. Fang Shuo nodded, stood, and walked over. He instructed the workers to open the crate and carefully inspected the vase inside. After confirming it was intact, he signed the receipt, and the employee left with his team. Everyone present fell completely silent, stunned into speechlessness. Lin Guoxiong and Zhou Ping stared wide-eyed, unable to believe what they were seeing. Lin Bing's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He couldn't fathom that Fang Shuo had actually purchased an antique vase worth over 10,000 yuan. Lin Bing swallowed hard and stammered. This isn't a fake, is it? Lin Guoxiong shook his head. No, it's genuine. I know their uniforms. They're a state-owned store, and they never sell counterfeit goods. As he spoke, he instinctively rose to his feet. Zhou Ping, Lin Bing, and Lin Fang also stood up and gathered around the vase. They circled it like Granny Lu entering the Grand View Garden, gingerly reaching out to touch its surface, murmuring in amazement. Truthfully, none of them had ever seen such an expensive antique up close before. This was a 10,000 yuan item. Even though Lin Guoxiong earned a decent salary now, he would never spend so much on a single vase under normal circumstances. Good, very good, excellent indeed. Lin Guoxiong beamed, his expression toward Fang Shuo instantly softening. Zhou Ping's face lit up with joy. If we display this vase at home, imagine how proud we'll feel when relatives and guests come to visit. Lin Bing nodded eagerly. Exactly. I'll bring my buddies over to see this. Guaranteed they'll drool with envy. At that moment, Shi Xiaomei pulled out a certificate from the wooden box and glanced at it before announcing, Mom, Dad, there's an expert authentication certificate here, complete with an anti-counterfeiting label. Lin Guoxiong took the certificate and examined it closely for a moment, then broke into hearty laughter. See? I told you it's authentic. That store has never sold fakes. I knew it. Lin Fang stood frozen in shock. She had only given Fang Shuo 1,000 yuan, yet he had bought a vase worth 10,000. So where on earth had he gotten the rest of the money? But at that moment, she didn't dwell on the question. Her parents were clearly in high spirits, and she needed to seize the opportunity to voice her request. Mom, Dad, Lin Fang began cautiously. Are you satisfied with this gift? Very satisfied, more than satisfied. Lin Guoxiong chuckled and nodded. Well, the reason I came today is because I have something to discuss with you. Guogua has reached school age, and I'd like her to attend the key elementary school near your place. So I was hoping we could transfer her household registration here. The moment she finished speaking, Lin Guoxiong's smile vanished instantly, and Lin Bing's expression also darkened with displeasure. Zhou Ping sneered sarcastically. What? Transfer Guogua's household registration here? No way, absolutely not. This house has nothing to do with you. How could I possibly allow an outsider to register their hukou in my home? Those words immediately ignited Fang Shuo's fury. An outsider? Calling his own flesh-and-blood granddaughter an outsider. Did these people have any sense of family sentiment left at all? Fang Shuo then said coldly, I've actually told Lin Fang many times that I've already arranged a school for Guogua, the private elementary near our place. Whether you agree to the transfer or not doesn't matter one bit. But your attitudes just now make me sick to my stomach. When I was successful, you didn't treat me this way. But once I fell on hard times, each of you rushed to step on me. I see your whole family clearly now. From this day forward, we go our separate ways. Better yet, never see each other again. Otherwise, I might just vomit at the sight of you. This vase was originally meant as a gift for you. Frankly, 10,000 yuan is pocket change to me. But now I've changed my mind. I wouldn't even give you a single cent's worth of anything, because you're not worthy of it. With that, he grabbed the vase with both hands and smashed it violently onto the floor. A loud crash rang out. The 10,000 yuan vase shattered into countless pieces. The entire family was stunned, unable to believe that Fang Shuo had actually destroyed a vase worth 10,000 yuan. Everyone stood frozen in shock. Without sparing them another glance, Fang Shuo casually beckoned to Guogua. Come on, Guogua, Dad's taking you to eat bullfrog hot pot. Guogua cheered happily, jumped up, and followed Feng Shuo straight out of Lin Guoxiong's house. The living room fell into utter silence. They looked at one another, dazed, unable to utter a word for a long while. A few seconds later, Lin Guoxiong snapped back to his senses first. He roared furiously. I'm so angry, so damn angry. Just look at him. Does he even recognize me as his father-in-law anymore? Lin Feng hadn't expected Feng Shuo to turn hostile so suddenly. Now, she was left alone to face her parents' wrath. After venting her anger for a while, Zhou Ping calmed down slightly. Seeing her daughter's pained expression, she suddenly felt a twinge of sympathy. After all, no matter how much she favored boys over girls, Lin Feng was still her own flesh and blood. She sighed and said, Lin Feng, just look at what kind of man you married. I'm telling you, divorce him as soon as possible. Staying with a man like this only brings suffering. You'd be better off freeing yourself early. Your company boss has been showing interest in you, hasn't he? I hear he's young and rich, a really good catch. While you're still young, you should secure a better future for yourself. Wait a few more years, you'll be old and wrinkled, and nobody will want you. After Zhou Ping finished speaking, Lin Bing chimed in. Yeah, Mom's right. Sister, you're so beautiful. You should use your advantages wisely. Sure, your company isn't big, but Guan Yunshui is still the boss. You need to seize the opportunity. Chapter 16, A Great Opportunity. Lin Feng was feeling unsettled. Feng Shua's behavior had left her deeply disappointed. In truth, she'd already been wavering for some time and had even considered suggesting divorce to him. But she was a mother. For Guogua's sake alone, she felt she needed to endure a little longer. Now, after hearing her mother and brother's advice, her heart began to waver once again. Frustrated and troubled, she sighed and said, Mom, Lin Bing, I know you're only trying to look out for me, but this is my life. I need to decide it on my own. With that, she stood up and added, Dad, Mom, Lin Bing, I'll head back now. About transferring Guogua's household registration, I'll come talk to you again in a couple of days. Lin Guoxiong snorted coldly. Talk about what? Didn't your husband just say he plans to send your daughter to private elementary school? Lin Bing sneered. Dad, come on. Are we really supposed to believe whatever he says? Private elementary costs 50 or 60,000 yuan a year, 30,000 total by graduation. That might have worked before, but with the way he is now, it's pure fantasy. Lin Guoxiong nodded in agreement. Lin Feng felt deeply wronged and became utterly resentful toward Feng Shuo. She left her parents' home as if fleeing, then went straight back home. After leaving his in-laws' house, Feng Shuo took Guogua directly to his frog hot pot restaurant. Today was actually a golden opportunity to make money, yet he'd gone over to his in-laws just to suffer insults. Thinking about it now, he realized how foolish he'd been. He instructed his staff to prepare high-quality ingredients, then let Guogua eat her fill. When she finished, he said to her, Guogua, play here by yourself for a bit. Dad needs to get busy. And don't go running around, okay? Guogua nodded vigorously and obediently pulled out her toys. Don't worry, Dad. I'll stay right here and play quietly. Smiling, Feng Shuo gently stroked her head before heading into the kitchen to work. Without the boss present, the staff wouldn't push themselves too hard. As a result, the morning passed with modest earnings. But now that the owner had arrived, everything changed. Everyone threw themselves into their duties, enthusiastically greeting customers who entered the shop. Though peak dining hours were past, no shortage of patrons came by reputation alone. Before long, the place was packed, and customers began lining up with table numbers. With so many guests arriving, Feng Shuo quickly got swamped. Busy rushing in and out, he had no time to keep an eye on his daughter. Fortunately, Guogua was well-behaved. She'd promised not to wander, and she kept her word. Sitting at her table playing, Guogua suddenly noticed a stylish young woman approaching her. The woman had long flowing hair, large bright eyes, delicate lips, and a graceful nose. She looked like a fairy descended from heaven. In Guogua's mind, her mom was very beautiful, but this young woman seemed even more stunning. Yet the woman wore no expression at all. Her pale face seemed wrapped in icy frost, giving off a distant, untouchable aura. Walking in high heels, she stopped in front of Guogua, glanced around, then frowned. No empty tables left? Never mind, I'll come back another time. Hearing this, Guogua quickly put away her toys and stood up. Auntie, this seat is free now. I've already finished eating. Please take it. The young woman looked at Guogua, hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, thank you, little girl. But you shouldn't call me Auntie. Call me Jejia, okay? Okay, Jejia, please sit down. If you need anything, just ask the server to take your order. Food should be ready in about 10 minutes, Guogua said seriously. Hearing this, the young woman's icy expression actually softened into a faint smile. Little girl, why do you talk so grown up? Who taught you this? Guogua shook her head. Nobody taught me. I learned it from watching the servers here. With that, she went to fetch a server to take the young woman's order. Looking at the adorable little girl, the young woman's glacial demeanor slowly melted away. Indeed, weekend customers exceeded all expectations. It wasn't until well past dinner rush that Feng Shuo finally had a chance to catch his breath. As soon as he got a break, he handed over his current tasks to the kitchen staff and rushed out to check on his daughter. Because the shop was so crowded, Guogua could only play quietly off to the side. To Feng Shuo's surprise, she wasn't just playing. She was mimicking the waitstaff, pretending to take orders and pass them along, like playing house. She was only 6 years old, yet she imitated them with remarkable accuracy. Truly, a tiger father doesn't raise a dog daughter. Guogua's talent in this likely came from his own genes. He walked over and lifted her into his arms. My little Guogua, are you pretending to be a little waitress? Guogwa looked a bit excited. Dad, there was an older sister earlier who said I was well-behaved and adorable, and she even gave me pocket money. As she spoke, she pulled out a 50 yuan bill from her pocket. For a child, 50 yuan was already a small fortune. Some college students didn't even receive more than 50 yuan as New Year's red envelopes. Feng Shuo hadn't expected someone to be so generous, casually handing over 50 yuan. She must have been quite wealthy. But regardless of who she was, as long as his daughter was happy, that was what mattered most. Guogwa wanted to hand the money to Feng Shuo, but he refused. This is your hard-earned money, so it belongs to you. But don't spend it carelessly. Save it for something important. Guogwa beamed with joy and carefully tucked the bill back into her pocket. Feng Shuo checked the time, then announced it was time to close up shop. Even though more customers might still come, he didn't care. Money could never be fully earned. Knowing when to stop at the right moment was the true essence of running a business. He instructed the kitchen staff to chop up all the remaining frogs, then told everyone to eat their fill before heading home. After eating his own fill with Guogwa, he happily returned home. When they entered the house, it was pitch black inside, not a single light on. Feng Shuo flipped the switch, only to find Lin Feng sitting on the sofa, her face filled with cold fury. Seeing her dark expression, Feng Shuo knew she was still angry about what had happened with her parents. Unfazed, he said calmly, "You're home? Why didn't you turn on the lights?" Lin Feng shot to her feet. "It's so late. Where did you take our daughter? Her health just recovered, yet you dragged her all over the place. Who knows what might happen again? How much money do we even have left to treat her if she falls sick once more?" Feng Shuo frowned, then gently said to Guogwa, "Guogwa, go to your room and sleep now. You must be tired after today. Get some rest early." Guogwa glanced at Lin Feng, nodded, and obediently ran into her bedroom. After watching his daughter disappear down the hall, Feng Shuo walked over and sat down on the sofa, saying coolly, "I took my daughter out to eat. We had 2 meals outside. That's why we came back late." Lin Feng snapped, "Eat outside? Didn't my parents cook at home? Why would you need to eat out?" Chapter 17. No more explanations. Your parents' home-cooked meals? Guogwa doesn't like them, Feng Shuo said flatly. Not liking it is no excuse to eat out. Feng Shuo, you've really grown bold, haven't you? Don't you know our family's financial situation? Do we have so much spare money for you two to go dining around? All the negative emotions Lin Feng had accumulated at her parents' house finally erupted. I've told you countless times how important it is to transfer Guogwa's household registration. But what did you do? You actually threw a tantrum right in front of them. Do you even realize how furious my parents are? You, as a man, cause trouble and then walk away, leaving me behind all alone. You're unworthy of being anyone's husband. How could I have ever married someone like you? As Lin Feng spoke, her chest heaved violently, revealing the intensity of her rage. Facing her fury, Feng Shuo remained calm. I've already told you Guogwa will attend a private elementary school, but you refused to listen. And today, you saw exactly how your parents treated us. I merely responded once, and they couldn't handle it? Were they this unreasonable back then? Don't bring up the past, Lin Feng shouted. The past is nothing like now. Feng Shuo sneered coldly. People should still know gratitude. Your parents and your younger brother have benefited from me plenty. Even if our family isn't as well off as before, they should at least remember some of my kindness. But did you see even a shred of gratitude from them? Stop deflecting. Right now, I'm talking about Guogwa's household registration. Lin Feng snapped. My position is clear, no private school. We simply don't have that kind of money. Guogwa's hukou must be transferred to my parents' place. Sometime soon, you'll come with me to apologize to them and beg them to approve the transfer. Feng Shuo replied firmly, impossible. Guogwa's hukou won't be moved, and I won't beg them. I've already made myself clear, starting today, they are they, and we are we. We're done with each other. Lin Feng screamed, shut up. If you say another word like that, we'll get divorced immediately. One way or another, you will follow my orders. The only way I'll change my mind is if you put 30,000 yuan right in front of me. Right now. Feng Shuo looked at her. 30,000 you say? Fine. No problem. Give me 1 month. I'll place 30,000 yuan right before your eyes. Hearing this, Lin Feng's face changed instantly. Are you planning to get into illegal activities again? Listen, you can do whatever you want, but don't drag me or our daughter into it. Feng Shuo frowned. One last time, I'm running legal businesses. All my money comes through legitimate channels. Believe it or not, but from now on, I won't explain myself to you ever again. Lin Feng snorted angrily. Then deal with the consequences yourself. With that, she turned sharply and stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door shut, clearly venting her frustration. Feng Shuo let out a cold laugh and sat down on the sofa, but he didn't dwell on the incident. Because he knew deep down that her parents and younger brother, the ungrateful wolves they were, would ultimately suffer terrible fates. In his previous life, Lin Guoxiong, Zhou Ping, and Lin Bing had all ended up in tragic circumstances. The only one truly deserving of pity was Lin Bing's wife, Shi Xiaomei, whose unexpected death was genuinely heartbreaking. The next morning, Lin Feng left early to take Guogwa to kindergarten before heading to work. Normally, Feng Shuo handled the drop-offs and pickups, but since she didn't want to see him, she decided to leave first. Shortly after, Feng Shuo also left home and headed to the shop to prepare for opening. Earning 30,000 yuan in a month, back during his best days, even that hadn't been easy. But with the Bullfrog Hot Pot restaurant operating, it wasn't an impossible task. He reviewed yesterday's revenue, over 60,000 yuan in total. Just one weekend day's earnings equaled the combined total of several regular weekdays, a staggering result. Still, Feng Shuo didn't allow himself to become complacent. He knew full well that such explosive success had already drawn attention. It wouldn't be long before copycat restaurants sprang up nearby. Whether they could truly replicate his concept didn't matter. The competition would undoubtedly affect business. Therefore, the Bullfrog Hot Pot restaurant couldn't be a long-term venture. It was merely a stepping stone. Once sufficient initial capital was secured, he'd shut it down without hesitation. After final preparations, Feng Shua opened the shop right on schedule. Even on a weekday, business was booming. At peak lunch hours, every seat was taken. Customers filled the entire place. At this rate, by month's end, after deducting staff wages, ingredient costs, rent, and other expenses, his estimated profit would easily surpass 30,000 yuan. Busy as ever, the peak lunch hour passed quickly, and the number of customers in the restaurant gradually dwindled. With no need for Feng Shua's help in the kitchen, he began assisting with serving guests. Just then, a young woman walked in from outside. She had long hair cascading over her shoulders, big bright eyes, and was stunningly beautiful. Combined with her tall figure and fashionable attire, she attracted many glances the moment she entered. Yet, there was always an indelible coldness in her expression, as if keeping everyone at a distance. After entering, the young woman casually took a seat at an empty table. Feng Shua hurried over to greet her. "Welcome. Feel free to place your order. Your meal will be ready in about 10 minutes. Despite her beauty, Feng Shua didn't spare her more than a glance. In his previous life, he had seen countless beautiful women, so such sights no longer fazed him. Besides, in Feng Shua's eyes, a customer was just a customer. Regardless of age, gender, or appearance, he treated them all the same. The young woman seemed somewhat distracted, her eyes constantly scanning the restaurant as if searching for something. When she didn't respond, Feng Shua asked again, "Miss, what would you like to order?" Finally, the young woman lifted her head and looked at Feng Shua. After hesitating for a moment, she asked, "Where's that little girl from yesterday? Isn't she here?" Feng Shua was momentarily taken aback, but quickly realized who she meant. "She's in kindergarten now. Yesterday was a special circumstance, otherwise I wouldn't have brought her here." "You're her parent?" the young woman asked. "I'm her father." Understanding dawned on her face. Then she picked up the menu and ordered the signature Bullfrog Hot Pot. Just as Feng Shua was about to turn away, he suddenly remembered something and asked, "Was it you who gave my daughter 50 yuan?" The young woman nodded. "Yes, your daughter is very cute and well-behaved. I like her, so I gave her a little tip." "Thank you." Feng Shua expressed his gratitude simply, said no more, and walked away. His gaze was sharp. This young woman was clearly no ordinary person. Her clothes were expensive, her bearing extraordinary. Moreover, he felt she looked somehow familiar, yet he couldn't quite recall where he might have seen her before. Chapter 18, Investment Proposal. Soon, the young woman finished her meal, but instead of leaving, she asked the waiter to fetch Chen Shua. "Are you the owner?" the young woman asked. Chen Shua nodded. "Yes. I come here often, but I don't remember seeing your shop before. Did you just open?" "Yes, less than a week ago." The young woman took a scented business card from her pocket and placed it on the table. "I think your restaurant has great potential for development. I'd like to initiate an investment project. Do you have any interest?" Chen Shua picked up the card and glanced at it. It read, Longjia Investment Management Company, Limited, Long Wanqing. Seeing the name, Chen Shua suddenly remembered where he had seen this woman before. In his previous life, he had once seen a prominent news item in a newspaper. Long Wanqing, the cherished daughter of Jiangzhou Longhai Group's chairman, had died in a traffic accident. The newspaper even published a photo of Long Wanqing. It was her. She was exactly that Long Wanqing who died in a car crash. If he recalled correctly, the accident was supposed to happen in 1 or 2 days. Chen Shua had also heard some rumors about Long Wanqing. Jiangzhou Longhai Group was a large and well-known conglomerate. However, although Long Wanqing was the chairman's daughter, she didn't rely on her family's resources. Instead, she co-founded an investment company with others. She was exceptionally capable, with an extremely sharp eye for investments. Every deal she made yielded profits. In that era, investment banking was considered an unpopular industry. Investment banking itself was like dancing on the edge of a blade. One moment it could send you to heaven, the next plunge you into hell. Without real skill, one simply couldn't survive. To dive into such a high-risk field during that time and thrive so spectacularly spoke volumes about how remarkable Long Wanqing truly was. Had she not died prematurely, she might very well have become a legendary financial figure one day. Although Chen Shua felt a storm surge within, outwardly he remained calm and unchanged. Having lived 2 lives, he would never easily reveal his inner thoughts. He set down Long Wanqing's business card and smiled. "My shop has only been open for less than a month. Isn't it a bit too soon for Miss Long to consider investing?" Long Wanqing shook her head. "In our line of work, we value potential and growth above all. Your shop's concept and market positioning are extremely precise. It's bound to grow big and strong in the future. Once your restaurant reaches a certain scale, other investment firms will rush in to compete. That'll drive up costs and greatly increase uncertainty." 2 sentences laid out the situation clearly. This Long Wanqing was indeed no ordinary person. Chen Shua admired not only her keen insight but also deeply respected her decisive and bold approach. Yet, Chen Shua had no intention of accepting her investment. Because if he did, he'd be tying himself to a single tree. He'd have to share operational risks with Long Wanqing in the future. Moreover, once Long Wanqing invested, he'd be constantly constrained, surrendering control over his own business. He never liked being passive. He wouldn't consider her proposal. The best solution would be to wait until competitors emerged, then sell the entire operation as a package to Long Wanqing. This way, He could maximize his profit while completely shifting the risk to the investor. Chen Shua smiled. Thank you for having such confidence in my shop, but I currently have no plans to accept outside investment. I'm sorry. Long Wanqing looked surprised. Don't you want your business to expand? With my funding, I can help you open over 10 branch stores within a month. Chen Shua chuckled and shook his head. My energy is limited. I can barely manage one store, let alone 10. Also, growing too fast could damage our brand and reputation. If customers become disappointed with my frog hot pot, it could trigger an avalanche effect. Seeing that Chen Shua wouldn't budge, Long Wanqing didn't press further. She had only approached tentatively anyway, not determined on securing his agreement. So she nodded. All right, everyone has their own path. I won't force you, but if you change your mind, feel free to contact me. Sure, Chen Shua replied with a smile. Long Wanqing stood up and began walking toward the exit. Chen Shua suddenly called out, Miss Long. What? Changed your mind already? Long Wanqing said lightly. Chen Shua hesitated briefly, but still couldn't hold back. Miss Long, are you planning to go out of town recently? Long Wanqing paused, then nodded. Yes, that's right. Here's a piece of advice. Try not to take your own car. You might want to switch vehicles, or even use other means of transportation, Feng Shua warned. He knew full well that saying this out of the blue would sound strange and abrupt. He couldn't explain anything to Long Wanqing either, because if he told the truth, he'd surely be labeled as crazy. Yet, Feng Shua still couldn't hold back from warning her. It was like seeing someone walking straight toward a cliff. You'd naturally call out to stop them. At heart, people are kind. Human nature is fundamentally good, and Feng Shua was simply doing what he could to save a life. Of course, all he could do was offer the warning. Whether Long Wanqing would follow it or not was beyond his control. Do what one can, then leave the rest to fate. That was all there was to it. Sure enough, a skeptical look flickered across Long Wanqing's eyes. Why are you telling me this? Do you know something? Feng Shua shook his head. I studied physiognomy for a few days. Just now, when I looked at your face, I saw a dark energy surrounding your philtrum. It indicates great misfortune. Out of goodwill, I thought I should warn you. Upon hearing this, Long Wanqing gave a faintly mocking smile. Sorry, but I'm an atheist. I don't believe in feng shui or face-reading nonsense. But regardless, thank you for the intention. With that, she turned around and walked away without looking back. Feng Shua sighed. He had done what he could. Whether history could actually change was no longer within his power. After closing up shop for the day and preparing to head home, unexpectedly, Hu Yuran and Boss Qian came to see him. Seeing his old friends, Feng Shua joked, well, if it isn't two senior brothers coming together, you're not here to collect debts, are you? Both Hu Yuran and Boss Qian froze momentarily, then burst into laughter together. Brother Feng, you really know how to crack a joke. How could we come demanding payment when your shop's only been open such a short time? Besides, given our friendship, a little money like that isn't worth mentioning. Hu Yuran chuckled. Feng Shua gestured for them to sit, then instructed a waiter to prepare a hot pot base and brought out the remaining sliced bullfrogs. Come on, senior brothers, since you're here, stay and have a meal with me. As he spoke, Feng Shua pulled out a bottle of liquor. Boss Qian laughed. You know, we actually came here on purpose to enjoy your specialty again. Ever since we tasted it on your opening day, we've been craving it non-stop. Chapter 19, just a transition. Feng Shua let the staff leave early, and the three of them sat together around the table, drinking and chatting over a hot pot filled with bullfrogs. After several rounds of drinks, Hu Yuran's eyes began to glaze over. Taking another sip, he swayed slightly as he said, Brother Feng, you're truly amazing. How on earth did you come up with such a brilliant idea, cooking bullfrog in hot pot? You don't know how arrogant those people at the agricultural market used to be, acting all high and mighty like they were somebody special. We had no choice but to beg them for favors. What could we do? They held all the power. Who got supply and who didn't? It was entirely up to their whims. But things are different now. When they see me, they treat me like a grandpa, so polite and respectful. Know why? Because I've cleared out every last bit of their unsold bullfrog inventory. Of course they have to fawn over me like I'm some kind of VIP. As he spoke, Hu Yuran kept pounding the table, laughing uncontrollably. Even though he ran a large distribution network, he'd always had to bow and scrape before the wholesale managers at the agricultural market. He depended on them for his livelihood, so showing respect was a necessity. But who really wants to live that way forever groveling beneath others? Now, finally, he turned the tables and risen above them. How could he not feel triumphant? And beyond pride, he was making solid profits too. This was winning on both fronts, saving face and making money. A perfect two birds, one stone. Qian Boss chimed in with a smile. Brother Feng, your little shop's becoming quite famous now. Truly well known near and far. At this rate, it won't be long before TV stations and newspaper reporters come knocking to interview you. You're going to be a celebrity. Feng Shua just chuckled lightly. In this era, communication technology wasn't advanced. Mainstream media still meant television and newspapers. Internet capabilities lagged far behind global standards. In his previous life, his restaurant would have gone viral overnight through short videos and social media platforms. He could have leveraged the internet to accumulate capital much faster. Oh right, I almost forgot the main thing. Hu Yuran suddenly slapped his forehead. To thank you for solving their inventory backlog problem, the manager of the agricultural market's wholesale department plans to personally visit and express his gratitude. Should be next week or so. He really doesn't need to go that far. Feng Shua replied dismissively. I just happen to have a demand that matched their surplus. Still, when someone wants to show appreciation, it's hard to refuse outright, Hu continued. And remember, the wholesale manager holds real authority. Might come in handy someday down the road. Feng Shuo nodded silently, saying nothing more. Who had a point? Knowing more people meant more connections, which mattered in business. Relationships mattered. Qian Boss asked curiously. Old who? Just how many bullfrogs has Brother Feng actually sold? Why would even the wholesale manager himself come pay a visit? Hu Yuren raised 5 fingers. 3,000 a day, on average. Qian Boss' eyes widened. What? That many every single day? He turned to Feng Shuo. Brother Feng, how on earth are you selling so much? At that volume, you must be clearing tens of thousands per day in pure profit. Feng Shuo simply smiled without answering, neither confirming nor denying. They were all businessmen here. Each knew how to do the math. Qian Boss only needed to run a quick calculation to understand Feng Shuo's true earnings. It never occurred to Qian Boss that such a small eatery could generate such massive profits. Most office workers today clocked 9-to-5 jobs and barely earned over 10,000 yuan a year. Yet Feng Shuo might be earning that in a single day. Now it made perfect sense why the wholesale manager himself would make a personal appearance. Feng Shuo had done the entire agricultural market a huge favor. Brother Feng, Hu Yuren went on. If things keep going like this, you might actually drain the market's entire bullfrog stockpile. But you also know, because bullfrog sales have been sluggish lately, most farmers would rather raise other aquatic products instead. A look of concern crossed his face. I'm just worried. If your sales stay this high, but supply can't keep up, prices will rise. That'll cut into your margins. Could hurt your profits, no? Feng Shuo smiled indifferently. No problem. By then, I won't be doing this anymore. To be honest with you two older brothers, this shop is just a stopgap for me. I never intended to build a lifelong career around it. Right now, customers are drawn by novelty, coming here out of curiosity. That's impulse buying. Once the novelty wears off, demand will cool down. Besides, my booming business is bound to catch the attention of neighboring shops. My methods aren't particularly sophisticated. Before long, copycats will pop up everywhere. And once competitors appear, they'll siphon off my customers. Added to that, the supply issue old who just mentioned could drive up costs, further squeezing profit margins. If that happens, I'd be putting in the same effort but getting far less return. Then there'd be no point in me continuing to run this place. Normally Feng Shuo wouldn't casually say such things, but tonight, fueled by alcohol, he let a few more thoughts slip. In fact, there was even more he didn't say. Because communication wasn't as advanced now as it would be in the future, information didn't spread quickly. That was precisely why competitors hadn't emerged immediately, allowing his shop to stay wildly successful until now. But in an era with developed internet networks, the moment his shop gained attention, copycats would appear within a week. Still, Feng Shuo's words left Hu Yuren and Qian Boss wide-eyed, completely stunned. They couldn't fathom that someone would treat such a booming business as nothing more than a temporary stopgap. If it were them, they'd surely stick with it for years, even decades, perhaps even pass the business down to their children someday. Yet Feng Shuo planned to shut it down after only a short time? It was such a waste. It felt like squandering a treasure. Hu Yuren and Qian Boss exchanged glances, then blurted out, Feng brother, are you really planning to close up after running it for just a while? Feng Shuo nodded. Yes, exactly. Then, if you're not going to continue, can you transfer the shop to me? Qian Boss asked eagerly. Look, the storefront is mine already, and all the licenses and permits are under my name too. You just need to sell me your broth recipe. Name your price. I'll pay top dollar. Hu Yuren quickly chimed in. I'm willing to pay top dollar too. Qian Boss frowned. Old Hu, you're already swamped managing your distribution network. Don't compete with me on this. The store and all the paperwork are under my name. I have the upper hand here. Seeing the two of them start arguing, Feng Shuo burst into laughter. Come on, brothers, don't fight. Even if you took over the shop, you couldn't run it successfully for long. Besides, I've already decided. I'm going to sell it to Long Wanqing in the future. Both Hu Yuren and Qian Boss froze in shock. Long Wanqing? Who's Long Wanqing? So Feng Shuo recounted everything that had happened earlier that day. After hearing his story, both men stood with mouths agape, utterly speechless. Feng Shuo's restaurant had actually become so popular that it had drawn in investors. Chapter 20, A Debt of Life. Hu Yuren and Boss Qian, though running fairly sizable businesses, were still nothing more than small-time operators compared to the big corporations. They both knew this well themselves. Thus, when they heard that Feng Shuo's shop had actually attracted investors, and that Feng Shuo had turned them down, they found it hard to believe. Of course, Feng Shuo always had a mind of his own, and after spending some time together, they had come to understand this well enough not to try persuading him otherwise. When Feng Shuo mentioned Long Wanqing, he couldn't help but recall the news article he had seen in his previous life. He wondered if she had taken his words to heart. Long Wanqing was exceptionally capable, an extraordinary business genius. It would be such a pity if she died so young. Besides, she was also stunningly beautiful. Feng Shuo, like any man, couldn't help but feel some tenderness toward her. In truth, Long Wanqing didn't believe a word of what Feng Shuo had said. She was a materialist, disbelieving entirely in fortune-telling or physiognomy. Since childhood, she had lived by one creed alone: destiny lies in one's own hands. However, she did indeed have to travel out of town tomorrow, a nearby city, not far at all. She needed to attend an important business bidding event, something critical that she absolutely had to attend. Early the next morning, once fully prepared, Long Wanqing was about to leave from her company. But just before stepping into the car, she suddenly remembered Feng Shuo's words. Though she didn't really believe them, her very life might be at stake. And Long Wanqing never allowed room for accidents. She always worked to minimize risks as much as possible. So, in the end, she decided to switch cars at the last minute. She needed a reason for the change, something other than the truth, which she certainly didn't want her secretary and assistant knowing. So she made up an excuse about an urgent phone conference and told them to head off first. 10 minutes after they left, Long Wanqing called a taxi and set off for the neighboring city. At that time, long-distance taxi rides were rare. If someone took one, it felt almost like winning a lottery prize. The driver was excited, blasting music from the radio as he sped onto the highway. The journey proceeded smoothly, without a single incident. Long Wanqing began to chide herself inwardly. Had she overreacted? Was she becoming too nervous? That Feng Shuo fellow must be terribly bored, she thought, to say something so absurd. She was beautiful, strikingly so. Men constantly orbited around her, doing everything they could to catch her attention and win her favor. Clearly, that Feng Shuo was no exception. Seeing her beauty, he probably concocted such a ridiculous line just to make her remember him. The car pressed on. Just as they neared the exit of the highway, the radio, which had been playing songs, suddenly interrupted with an urgent news bulletin. Attention all drivers. A traffic accident occurred earlier on the highway involving a collision between a black Mercedes-Benz and a large freight truck. The Mercedes has sustained severe damage, and its occupants are seriously injured. All drivers are advised to drive cautiously and take alternate routes. Hearing this, Long Wanqing froze completely. Her entire body broke out in goosebumps. Her heart pounded uncontrollably. No, this can't be true. She refused to believe it. She quickly pulled out her phone and dialed her secretary and assistant. No matter how many times she tried, no one answered. Her anxiety surged. Could it be that what Feng Shuo said was actually true? Since the broadcast hadn't given the license plate number, Long Wanqing still held on to a faint hope. Maybe her staff had already arrived. Perhaps poor signal, or being busy with something else, kept them from answering. Yet minutes later, she received a call from the traffic police division. The accident involved her very car. Long Wanqing felt as if struck by lightning. Never in her wildest dreams had she imagined that Feng Shuo's prediction would come true. At the same time, a deep chill of dread washed over her. If she hadn't impulsively switched vehicles at the last moment, she would surely now be lying in a hospital bed. According to the traffic police, the vehicle had been crushed beyond recognition, and the driver had died on the spot. Her secretary and assistant were currently fighting for their lives in the ICU. After hanging up, Long Wanqing quickly composed herself. She immediately ordered the taxi driver to turn around and return to Jiangzhou. Losing this bidding opportunity would deal a serious blow to her company. But compared to that, surviving today was her greatest gain. Her staff were now hospitalized. She had to go back to see them. While grateful for her own survival, she also carried a heavy burden of guilt. If only she had insisted they all switch cars together, perhaps they wouldn't have been in the crash. At the same time, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of gratitude toward Feng Shuo. Whether he was just putting on an act or truly understood fortune-telling, one thing was certain, she now owed him a debt. And not just any debt, a debt of life. So Long Wanqing decided that after checking on her secretary and assistant, she would personally visit Feng Shuo to express her thanks. Of course, Feng Shuo had no idea about these details. In his previous life, he had learned about the accident only through the news. But this time, he paid special attention and later confirmed that the crash had indeed happened. Only Long Wanqing hadn't been in the car. At that moment, it carried only her secretary and assistant. So it seemed Long Wanqing had actually taken his word seriously and chosen not to board that vehicle. Learning she was safe, Feng Shuo let out a sigh of relief. Saving a life surpasses building 7 tiers of pagodas. This was the first truly meritorious deed he had done since being reborn. Soon enough, Long Wanqing's narrow escape faded from his mind, for he was now fully occupied with running his shop and making money. There simply wasn't time for anything else. His Frog Hot Pot restaurant had become wildly successful, far beyond his expectations. He never imagined it would attract even television coverage. However, Feng Shuo had zero interest in appearing on TV, so he casually sent a good-looking waitress to handle the interview in his place. Yet that single broadcast amplified his fame exponentially. The restaurant gained widespread recognition almost overnight. Many guests traveled great distances, switching from buses to subways, just to come and try his dish. Due to the booming business, numerous eateries began sending their staff to secretly observe and study how he achieved such success. Feng Shuo wasn't blind to this. He knew it was happening, but he didn't care. Based on his estimation, competitors would emerge soon anyway. By now, he had nearly 250,000 yuan saved, just a bit short of his 300,000 goal. His shop already enjoyed solid popularity, strong cash flow, and sales had reached a new level. It was time to meet Long Wanqing and discuss selling the store. If he waited until competitors appeared and started diverting his customers, then approaching her would likely result in a much lower price. After all, Long Wanqing was no fool. She would surely use the competition as leverage to drive the price down. Chapter 21 Envy. Since the shop's licenses and documents weren't in his name, he only held the marketing concept and soup-based recipe. He estimated that Long Wanqing would offer him at most 100,000. 25,000 plus 10,000. He could definitely exceed his goal. Now it seemed that doing good deeds really did bring rewards. If Long Wanqing had died in a car accident, who would he even sell the shop to? That would have been a huge problem. Although Long Wanqing was sharp, she had vision and recognized the true value of the business. She'd absolutely be a great buyer. Just then, the principal of the private elementary school called Feng Shuo, telling him he could bring Guogua to sit in on a few classes. If both parties were satisfied, they could complete enrollment procedures early. It looked like the issue of his daughter's schooling was basically settled. This made Feng Shuo feel quite excited. So he immediately called the kindergarten to take a few days off, then took Guogua to register at the private school. The private school's high price came with good reasons. Besides excellent teachers and facilities, it was also very considerate. The school had already prepared a backpack, stationery, textbooks, and more for Guogua, all thoughtfully printed with her name. Guogua happily put on her little backpack and went to class. Seeing how joyful his daughter was, Feng Shuai couldn't help but wear a warm smile. Mr. Guogua's dad, our trial period lasts up to 2 weeks. If you're satisfied, we can proceed with enrollment. But according to our school policy, tuition must be paid annually in advance, so please prepare accordingly. An annual tuition fee of 50,000 wasn't much in Feng Shuai's eyes. He simply nodded, then left the school. Meanwhile, Lin Feng was feeling anxious all day because of Guogua's household registration transfer. Feng Shuai's previous actions had thoroughly enraged her parents and younger brother. Lin Guoxiong had already issued a threat. Transferring Guogua's hukou wasn't impossible, but only if Feng Shuai personally apologized and showed respect to them. Even worse, Lin Bing demanded that Feng Shuai kneel and apologize. Lin Feng knew full well that given Feng Shuai's temper, asking him to kneel was out of the question. He wouldn't even lower his head. So she was deeply troubled, unsure how to resolve the situation. At that moment, Xiao Mei from the same office approached her with a smile and said, Feng, what's bothering you? Why do you look so worried? Women should stay optimistic. It prevents aging. Xiao Mei was very beautiful, not inferior to Lin Feng in appearance at all. Together, they were known as the two flowers of the company, the most beautiful women in the entire firm. But unlike Lin Feng, Xiao Mei was a few years younger and still single, attracting many suitors. They'd originally been classmates, and since Lin Feng had always taken care of her, the two had become close friends. Seeing Xiao Mei bring it up, Lin Feng quickly adjusted her mood and forced a small smile. Nothing serious, just some minor issues. Once you get married, life comes with more worries. Xiao Mei shrugged. That's why I'm firmly anti-marriage. Being alone is so much freer and more comfortable. Lin Feng couldn't hide her envy. You're lucky. You have no family, no kids, no burdens at all. Unlike me, married to such a useless husband. When they met, Feng Shuai had already lost his job. Lin Feng often complained about how terrible her husband was, so Xiao Mei felt genuine sympathy for her. Feng, don't be depressed. Unhappy things happen every day. You need to find ways to cheer yourself up. After work today, I'll take you somewhere nice. I guarantee it'll lift your spirits. Xiao Mei patted Lin Feng on the shoulder. Lin Feng blinked. Where to? Have you heard? There's a new Bullfrog hot pot restaurant opened in Jiangzhou, and business is booming. Xiao Mei said excitedly. Lin Feng knew about this. After all, even TV stations had covered it. So she nodded and said, I know. Let's go there today and have a meal. Whenever I feel down, I always cheer up by eating. I think you should try it too. Hearing going out to eat, Lin Feng hesitated, her face showing reluctance. Their financial situation was tight, and with her daughter about to start elementary school, a significant upcoming expense, there was no extra money for dining out. If she managed to transfer her daughter's household registration to her parents, she'd still have to pay a large sum. There just wasn't any spare cash. Seeing Lin Feng hesitate, Xiao Mei proudly patted her chest. I'll treat this. Upon hearing Xiao Mei's offer, Lin Feng began to waver. Xiao Mei grabbed Lin Feng's arm and shook it playfully. Come on, Feng, my dear Feng's sister. Just come along with me. I've wanted to go for ages, but going alone feels awkward. Hearing Xiao Mei say that, Lin Feng had no choice but to agree. All right then, I'll go with you after work. Anyway, Feng Shuai was now the one in charge of picking up and dropping off Guogua, so she didn't have to worry about it. She had plenty of free time after work. Since the restaurant was extremely popular, they were afraid they'd have to wait if they went late. So both Xiao Mei and Lin Feng took an hour off and left work early. Everyone in the company already knew about Lin Feng's relationship with her boss Guan Yunshui, so no one dared stop her from taking leave. Xiao Mei had already gathered all the information beforehand and skillfully led them straight to the legendary Bullfrog hot pot restaurant. Even though it wasn't peak dining time, the place was already crowded with people. Fortunately, Xiao Mei was quick thinking and had left early. If not, just waiting for a table could have taken over an hour. Seeing the nearly full restaurant, Xiao Mei couldn't help but exclaim, My goodness, this place is unbelievably busy. We came early, and there are still so many people. With this kind of foot traffic, I'd say the owner makes at least 10,000 yuan a day, easily. In 1 month, that's a solid 30,000 yuan in profit. Upon hearing this, Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. 30,000 yuan a month? To her, that seemed like an impossible dream, something she couldn't even dare imagine. She wondered what kind of person the restaurant's owner must be to come up with the idea of serving bullfrogs in hot pot. No wonder the business was thriving. Such a brilliant business mind. If only Feng Shuai could be half as smart and driven. But alas, all he did was chase shady shortcuts and illegal schemes. The two found an empty table and had just sat down when they heard a childish voice singing from the neighboring table. The song was ordinary, the kind taught in elementary schools, but the voice sounded strangely familiar. Without thinking, Lin Feng turned her head toward the sound, and when she saw who it was, she froze completely. Guogua? Wasn't that her daughter Guogua? What was she doing here? As Lin Feng's closest friend, Xiao Mei had of course met Guogua before. Her eyes widened in surprise. Isn't that Guogua? What are you doing here? Chapter 22, A Waste of Words. Guogua looked up and immediately saw her mother and Aunt Xiao. She flashed an innocent smile. Mom, Aunt Xiao, I'm here waiting for Dad to get off work. Xiao Mei said in surprise. Waiting for your dad to get off work? Does your dad work here? Guogua nodded. Of course. If Dad didn't work here, How could he often bring me here to eat delicious food? Upon hearing this, Lin Feng's expression gradually turned cold. She hadn't expected Feng Shuo to actually work at a place like this. How much could one possibly earn working here? He was no longer the man he used to be. Though his ambitions remained high, there was no way he could make that kind of money anymore. What angered her most was that, despite having little ability himself, he stubbornly insisted on sending their daughter to a private school just to spite her parents. Wasn't this nothing more than putting on a brave face despite being broke? Arrogant yet incompetent, his heart soared beyond the sky, while he himself had no real talent. Truly mud that couldn't be shaped into anything. Lin Feng's eyes filled with deep disappointment. Where is your father? Lin Feng asked, her voice growing colder. Dad is helping out in the kitchen, Guoguo replied. This response only confirmed Lin Feng's suspicion even further, that Feng Shuo must be doing the simplest, most unskilled labor here. She never imagined he'd sink so low as to take any job just for the sake of pride. Lin Feng clenched her teeth. Go fetch your father. I need to talk to him. Worried that things might become awkward when Lin Feng and Feng Shuo met, Xiao Mei suggested, Feng, why don't we go eat somewhere else instead? Lin Feng replied coolly. Why should we eat elsewhere? We're eating here. Seeing her mother's odd expression and tone, Guoguo didn't dare say anything else. She quickly ran into the kitchen and called Feng Shuo out. Feng Shuo hadn't expected Lin Feng to show up at his restaurant with a colleague. Then again, it wasn't surprising. After all, his shop had gained some fame by now. But when Lin Feng saw him standing there with sleeves rolled up, wearing a stained white apron covered in grease, she grimaced in disgust. He truly preferred suffering over saving face. If only he had swallowed his pride that day and apologized to Lin Guoxiong and the others, would he have ended up in such misery? And now, her own husband working as a back kitchen hand in a restaurant? This humiliation made Lin Feng feel utterly ashamed. To make matters worse, her close friend Xiao Mei was right here witnessing everything. Feng Shuo smiled. I didn't expect you to come. Is this your colleague? Since you're both here, let me treat you. Order whatever you like. Don't hold back. Lin Feng said coldly. No need. We'll pay our own way. You don't have to treat us. After all, you're just Dagung ing here. How much can you earn in a month? If you treat us, you won't have anything left. Feng Shuo realized Lin Feng misunderstood, so he explained. How could I let you two pay? That'd be humiliating for me. Eat whatever you want. Order freely. The bill's on me today. Lin Feng finally snapped. She slammed the table with a bang, shouting angrily. Feng Shuo, enough. How long are you going to keep up this act? I know your career setbacks hurt you deeply, but so much time has passed. Shouldn't you have moved on by now? Instead, you do nothing about improving yourself and spend every day clinging to meaningless pride. Feng Shuo froze, pointing at himself. Me? Me pretending. Lin Feng snorted in anger. Isn't that exactly what you're doing? Talking about sending our daughter to a private school. You don't even know how much tuition costs per year? Coming all the way here to do these dirty, menial jobs just to defy my parents. Isn't that exactly clinging to face? Faced with Lin Feng's fury and relentless accusations, Feng Shuo stopped explaining. No matter what he said now, not a single word would get through to her. His smile slowly faded as he said calmly, believe me or not, it doesn't matter. Guoguo's schooling is none of your concern. And today, I've already taken her to register at the private elementary school. The principal said if there are no issues, we can complete enrollment procedures early. Lin Feng trembled with rage, pointing a shaking finger at him. You, even now still playing games. Feng Shuo, how long do you intend to deceive me? You're Dagung ing here, making barely over 1,000 a month. You simply can't afford private school tuition. People need to know when to bow their heads. What's so wrong with apologizing to my parents? Isn't that better than rotting away in a dump like this, suffering pointlessly? Unwilling to continue arguing, Feng Shuo said, say whatever you want. Facts speak louder than words. Once Guoguo officially enrolls, you'll see whether I've been lying or not. Just call a server to take your order. I've got work to do. With that, Feng Shuo called over a waiter to assist Lin Feng and Xiao Mei with their orders, then turned and walked away. Watching Feng Shuo's retreating back, Lin Feng was so angry she couldn't even speak. She truly regretted ever marrying a man like him. Xiao Mei sensed the tension and felt awkward. Trying to ease the atmosphere, she made an excuse to go to the restroom and stood up from her seat. Just after coming out of the bathroom, by sheer coincidence, she saw Feng Shuo walking out from the kitchen, speaking to a waiter. Feng Shuo's demeanor and expression didn't resemble someone who was just an employee at all. He looked more like someone giving orders. At that moment, after finishing his instructions, the waiter nodded respectfully and said, Yes, boss, I'll take care of it right away. Hearing this, Xiao Mei was completely stunned. Boss, Feng Shuo was the owner? The so-called good-for-nothing husband Lin Feng had spoken of, the man with no ambition, was actually the owner of this wildly popular Bullfrog hot pot restaurant? It was utterly shocking. Xiao Mei hurried back to her seat, bursting with excitement as if she had discovered something extraordinary, and said to Lin Feng, Hey, do you know who owns this hot pot restaurant? Lin Feng frowned. How would I know? This is my first time here today. Xiao Mei couldn't hide her amazement. It's Feng Shuo. Just now, when I came out of the restroom, I heard the waiter call him boss. Chapter 23, Selling the Shop. What? Lin Feng could hardly believe her ears. That good-for-nothing slacker, always drinking and sleeping, was actually the owner of this frog hot pot restaurant? Judging by how bustling the business was, monthly profits must have been in the hundreds of thousands. Could this be why Feng Shuo had the confidence to send Guoguo to a private school? Could this be why he dared to openly defy her parents? If Feng Shuo truly owned this place, then hadn't he returned to being just like he used to be? Just as Lin Fong was lost in speculation, a customer suddenly called out, "Boss, more soup." A waiter responded, grabbed a thermal pot, and quickly rushed over. At another table, someone else also requested soup. Overwhelmed, the waiter turned to a colleague and said, "Hey, Bosqua, can you help me out?" The other waiter then ran off carrying a thermal pot. Ah, so that's it. She'd almost been fooled. Lin Fong suddenly realized, apparently, all the staff here referred to each other as boss. Fong Shua wasn't the real owner at all. He was just a kitchen worker. She regretted having felt even a trace of hope earlier. What a false alarm. Whether it was sending his daughter to private school or defying her parents face to face, it all boiled down to nothing but wounded pride. Xiaomei also noticed the waiters addressing each other this way, and said with surprise, "Fong Fong, the staff here are really odd. They all call each other boss. How strange." Lin Fong felt utterly humiliated. Just moments ago, she'd actually believed Fong Shua was the owner. Now she understood. It was merely an internal nickname among employees. She didn't want to discuss this further, especially not in front of Xiaomei. Today had already been deeply embarrassing. Biting her lip, she forced a change of subject. Maybe that's just how they like to address each other here. By the way, I heard the company has a difficult client recently, threatening to claim compensation or something. Is that true? At this, Xiaomei's face darkened. It's true. Finance and legal have been swamped lately. I heard they've been working overtime for days straight. If we really get hit with that compensation claim, layoffs might be inevitable. Lin Fong sighed. I hope the company pulls through. Things are already bad enough at home. I really can't afford to lose my job. Her company specialized in importing foreign goods for domestic resale. Having entered the market early, it had grown into quite a sizable operation. In these times, domestic manufacturing was still relatively weak, so many products relied on imports. Plus, people blindly believed imported goods were superior to domestic ones, giving imported products a massive market and high profit margins. As the old saying goes, no businessman is without deceit. To maximize profits, many companies sold inferior goods or mixed cheaper counterfeits into their products. This reduced costs while boosting profits, and consumers rarely noticed in the short term. Lin Fong's company had long profited from such practices, but cheating could only last so long before being exposed. In their latest transaction, a distributor discovered the counterfeit components and was now demanding heavy compensation, or else they'd sue. Such a lawsuit would undoubtedly result in loss, so compensation seemed unavoidable. But this would deliver a severe blow to the company, likely leading to layoffs. Xiaomei sighed. Fong Fong, why worry about being laid off? Everyone in the company knows about your relationship with Director Guan. You're practically the future madam of the company. No way they'd lay you off. Hearing this, Lin Fong's expression shifted. She quickly glanced at Guogua, relieved to see her daughter focused on eating, seemingly unaware of Xiaomei's words. She calmed slightly, then snapped. Stop babbling nonsense. Can't even keep your mouth shut while eating? Xiaomei realized her mistake too. This wasn't appropriate in front of a child. She stuck out her tongue and quickly shoved food into her mouth. Though scolding Xiaomei outwardly, Lin Fong felt internally secure. Even if every other employee were laid off, she'd never be touched. After all, Guan Yunshui had publicly pursued her in front of the entire company. Although Fong Shua had insisted on treating them, after the meal Xiaomei still called over a waiter to settle the bill. We ate so much, yet it's only over 100 yuan, about 30 per person. Never thought this place was so cheap. No wonder the business is thriving. And the taste, absolutely amazing. I definitely want to come back again. Stepping outside, Xiaomei still looked wistful. Lin Fong held Guogua in her arms, a slightly embarrassed expression on her face. Xiaomei, I really shouldn't have let you pay. You treated us. Next time we meet, I absolutely must return the favor. Xiaomei laughed heartily. What are we to each other? Don't be so polite. I'm single, no family to support. Over 100 yuan for a meal? I can afford that easily. Suddenly, she grew serious, lowering her voice. But seriously, Fong Fong, if the company really does lay people off, you've got to put in a good word for me with Director Guan. This job is how I make my living, after all. Lin Fong nodded without hesitation. Of course. If it ever comes to that, I won't let anything happen to your job. We're best friends, right? Now Xiaomei beamed again, patting Lin Fong on the shoulder. Then I'll thank you in advance. The two chatted and laughed all the way to the bus stop, then waved goodbye and headed home separately. Over the next few days, Lin Fong and Fong Shua coexisted in uneasy peace. Fong Shua was busy running the restaurant, while Lin Fong remained clouded by anxiety over her company's situation. Fong Shua reviewed the books. After this period of operation, deducting accounts payable, staff salaries, and taxes, he had netted 278,432.7 yuan. After further subtracting normal operating costs, utilities, water, gas, and wear and tear, the profit came out to roughly 260,000 yuan. However, Fong Shua noticed something odd lately. Some customers coming in looked suspicious. They didn't order food but instead kept looking around curiously, pulling servers aside to ask endless questions. Clearly, these were scouts sent to investigate. It wouldn't be long before competitors showed up. It was time to sell the shop. That evening, after closing, Fong Shua retrieved Long Wanqing's business card and dialed her number. Miss Long, hello. This is Fong Shua. You came to my restaurant once, and we talked about investment. Do you remember? Long Wanqing was startled at first, then quickly recognized the name. Her heart unexpectedly quickened. She'd been deeply shaken by the car accident the other day. She had intended to personally visit Fong Shua to express her gratitude, but her assistant hadn't survived the crash and tragically passed away. Buried in handling the aftermath, she had postponed the meeting. She never expected Feng Shua to call her first. Long Wanqing had always dismissed fortune-telling and mysticism as nonsense, but recent events left her with no choice but to reconsider. Though still skeptical, her previous convictions were no longer as firm. "Oh, Mr. Fong. Yes, I remember you. Are you calling because you've changed your mind and want to accept my investment offer?" Feng Shua chuckled. "Compared to investment, I've thought of a better option. I've decided to sell my entire restaurant to you." "Sell the shop to me?" Long Wanqing was clearly taken aback. "Yes, due to certain special circumstances, I'd like to transfer ownership. If you're interested, get in touch. That's all for now." With that, Feng Shua hung up. Long Wanqing was a sharp investor. She would pick up on subtle clues and start analyzing. That's why Feng Shua couldn't reveal too much on the phone. Moreover, he needed to project an attitude of take it or leave it. Only then would Long Wanqing be unable to read his intentions, allowing him to retain full control. But he couldn't push too hard. People like Long Wanqing hated feeling manipulated. He had to strike just the right balance. Drop a line, cut off before the other could respond, and leave them to ponder. That was Feng Shua's strategy. If Long Wanqing was even remotely interested, she would call back to inquire further. Sure enough, the very next morning, Long Wanqing called, inviting him to meet at Longjia Investment Management Company to discuss the details of the sale in person. Chapter 24. Exceptional Demeanor. Feng Shua did not accept the appointment immediately, instead claiming he had something else to attend to and would come a day later. In order to maximize the store's value, he couldn't follow Long Wanqing's pace. Creating minor obstacles at the right moment, making her believe he might still be hesitant about selling, would yield the best result. Of course, Feng Shua actually did have something today. Hu Yuran had mentioned that the manager of the agricultural products wholesale department at the farmers market would visit to express gratitude, and it was supposed to happen today. But even if there were no real conflict, Feng Shua would still invent an excuse not to go. After seeing Guoguo off, Feng Shua arrived at the shop. By then, both Qian Laoban and Hu Yuran were already there. As soon as they saw him, they rushed forward anxiously and said, "Brother Feng, how can you be so calm? Why are you only arriving now?" Feng Shua couldn't help but laugh. "It's just the manager of the farmers market wholesale department. Is he really that big a deal? What's the rush? It's not even that late, yet you're both already here." Hu Yuran shook his head. "You don't understand. Though the manager of the farmers market wholesale department isn't some high-ranking official, he holds real power in his hands. They say people from state-owned enterprises always sit facing south. This is absolutely true. I've been a distributor for many years now, and my operation isn't small by any means. Logically speaking, he should treat me with great respect, right? But in reality, he doesn't. He controls the power to set wholesale prices and quantities. With just a word from him, you could earn huge profits. The same goes the other way. He can ruin you just as easily. That's why we distributors are all afraid of him. And he always acts superior, treating us like nothing. Not just us distributors, even many state-run restaurants have to tread carefully when sourcing goods from him. In short, he's someone you can't afford to offend. When he comes, you must show him proper respect." Despite Hu Yuran's repeated warnings, Feng Shua merely let the words enter one ear and exit the other, paying little mind. Although the farmers market was still state-operated now, before long, with the deepening of market-oriented reforms, it would soon undergo structural changes. Once the market shifted to a shareholding company model, those who once sat complacently in power would face significant upheaval. Their days of looking down on others wouldn't last much longer. Of course, neither Hu Yuran nor Qian Laoban knew this. Having lived 2 lifetimes, Feng Shua had already experienced these changes in his previous life and clearly understood how things would unfold. "Oh, by the way, Brother Qian, Brother Hu, let's forget about this manager for now. There's something important I need to tell you," Feng Shua said seriously. "What is it?" Both Hu Yuran and Qian Laoban asked simultaneously. "Tomorrow, I'm going to visit Longjia Investment Management Company to discuss the store sale directly with Long Wanqing. You're my landlord and supplier respectively, so you'll both need to come with me." Hu Yuran and Qian Laoban exchanged glances. "Brother Feng, are you really planning to sell the store? Isn't it a pity to give up such a good business?" Even though they knew Feng Shua must have his reasons, they still couldn't resist asking. They simply couldn't understand. How could someone want to sell a store that was doing extremely well, especially after running it for such a short time? It was like having a hen that laid golden eggs, and before it had even laid a few, you decided to sell it. It just didn't make sense. Feng Shua smiled. The current success is temporary. Once competitors emerge, price wars will inevitably break out. Profits will shrink repeatedly, and customer traffic will be gradually divided. I'm confident I could run this shop for 10 or 20 years, maybe even longer. But what's the point of persisting like that? It's just about making money, not fulfilling some grand dream. My philosophy is simple. No matter what business I'm in, once it fails to achieve maximum profitability, I walk away without hesitation. Life is limited, efficiency is what I value most. After hearing Feng Shua's words, Hu Yuran and Qian Laoban spontaneously burst into applause. His philosophy was too advanced, too profound. People at their level simply couldn't grasp it. But precisely because they didn't understand it, they thought Feng Shua was extraordinary. From the earlier incident with selling pork, to this recent success with the Bullfrog Hot Pot restaurant, both Hu Yuran and Qian Laoban had come to admire Feng Shua completely. No wonder he's a master. The way he speaks is unlike anyone else. From their eyes, Feng Shua could tell they hadn't understood a thing. But it didn't matter whether they understood or not. After all, having lived 2 lives, his experience and foresight were far beyond theirs. The wholesale department manager was originally scheduled to arrive around 10 o'clock. Yet they waited until 2 in the afternoon, and still he didn't show up. Hu Yuran knew full well that people from state-run units all acted this way, especially those with even a minor title or position. It wasn't that they didn't know how to keep time. They deliberately arrived late to emphasize their elevated status. Just as Feng Shuo was beginning to think no one would show up, several men in dark suits carrying briefcases entered the shop one after another. Hu Yuran immediately locked eyes on one of them and hurried forward with a broad, smiling face. "Manager Fei, you've finally come. Please, come in, quickly come in." Manager Fei wore an air of arrogance, gave a soft, then scanned the room. "Who is Mr. Feng Shuo?" Feng Shuo stepped forward. "That's me." Manager Fei sized him up for a moment, then suddenly broke into a fawning expression. Turning around, he said, "Director Wang, this is Feng Shuo, the one who solved the bullfrog surplus issue at the farmer's market." The person Manager Fei addressed was a middle-aged man with a kind-looking face but an aura of authority. His hair was streaked with gray, and deep wrinkles lined his forehead, clearly showing years of hard work. He looked at Feng Shuo and nodded approvingly. "Ah, so you're Feng Shuo? Good, good, remarkably young and capable. Excellent." Hu Yuran didn't recognize the man, but judging by his commanding presence, he suspected this wasn't an ordinary visitor. He whispered to Manager Fei, "Who is this?" Fei shot Hu Yuran a fierce glare. "Who? Keep your voice down. Show some respect. He's Wang Yuanhang, Director Wang, from the Market Management Division of the Jiangzhou Grain Bureau." Hu Yuran's eyes widened in disbelief. The Jiangzhou Grain Bureau. This was a proper government agency, a real yamen, in the eyes of ordinary citizens. And more importantly, the Grain Bureau held real power. Whether it was the farmer's market or distributors like him, they were all under its jurisdiction. He had assumed this was just a routine visit from the manager of the Agricultural Products Wholesale Department. He never imagined that someone as high-ranking as the head of the Market Management Division at the Grain Bureau would actually come in person. Stunned, Hu Yuran now looked at Feng Shuo with utter admiration. What an extraordinary feat must have been accomplished to draw such a high-level official here. "Mr. Feng, on behalf of the Farmers Market and the Jiangzhou Grain Bureau, I want to express my deepest gratitude for your achievements and contributions. Without your intervention, we'd have faced serious inventory buildup, perhaps even massive waste. I sincerely thank you." Chapter 25, The Certificate of Honor. Feng Shuo looked at Wang Yuanhang for a moment, then said calmly, "You don't need to thank me. I didn't go out of my way to help the farmer's market solve its problems. This was just business, pure coincidence." He appeared calm on the outside, but inside, his heart stirred with emotion. In his previous life, he had once read a popular science article about death from overwork, which used Wang Yuanhang as an example. Wang Yuanhang was a man dedicated to practical achievements, diligent, hardworking, and exceptionally productive in his job. But precisely because he pushed himself so hard, his body eventually gave in under the strain. Later, he was promoted and became the undisputed top official at the Grain Bureau. His future should have been bright, but not long after, he was diagnosed with lung cancer and passed away shortly thereafter. That article had left a deep impression on Feng Shuo. It stopped him from working recklessly like before, teaching him the importance of balance, knowing when to push forward and when to pull back. Because of this, every word in that article was etched clearly into his memory, making the name Wang Yuanhang particularly unforgettable. Grain Bureau, Wang Yuanhang. It must be this middle-aged man standing before him now. Wang Yuanhang hadn't expected such composure from this young man. Anyone else would have already bragged endlessly about their contributions. Yet this youth spoke so casually, as if what he'd done was nothing significant. After just one simple exchange, Wang Yuanhang found himself developing a favorable impression of Feng Shuo. "Haha, you're quite humble, young man. Whether it was intentional or not, we value facts. Some gratitude is still necessary. To express our thanks, I'm presenting you, on behalf of Jiangzhou City's Grain Bureau, with an award. It's not something valuable in material terms, but it carries honor." As he spoke, he subtly gestured toward Manager Fei, who immediately understood and pulled out a certificate of appreciation and a yellow-covered booklet, handing them to Feng Shuo. "A small token of appreciation, nothing more," Manager Fei said with a wide smile. Feng Shuo glanced at the items. The certificate was a letter of thanks signed by the farmer's market. The booklet, however, was an outstanding merchant certificate of honor, issued specially by the Grain Bureau. Seeing these two things, Hu Yuran's eyes nearly popped out. The certificate of appreciation wasn't particularly impressive. He'd received several himself as a long-term distributor. But the honor certificate issued by the Grain Bureau, that carried serious weight. Whoever held this certificate could get the lowest wholesale prices at any market across Jiangzhou City. Moreover, whenever new goods arrived, they would receive priority supply. It was truly something to envy, something that made your mouth water. If Hu Yuran possessed such a certificate, he'd be able to walk tall anywhere. He'd even be able to stand straight and speak confidently in front of Manager Fei. Yet Feng Shuo remained completely composed. After accepting the certificate and award, he gave a slight nod. "Thank you." The more indifferent he seemed, the more Wang Yuanhang admired him. In today's world, young people who could remain so level-headed were rare indeed. This kid might actually be talented, someone who could achieve great things in the future. The meeting was complete. People had been met, awards given, thanks expressed. It was time to part ways. After a few polite farewell remarks from Wang Yuanhang, followed by some flattery from Manager Fei, everyone began to leave. However, just as Wang Yuanhang was about to step away, Feng Shuo suddenly said, "Director Wang, please wait. I have something I'd like to say." Wang Yuanhang paused and turned back. "Oh, what is it you want to say?" I'd like to offer you some advice. If you can, please go to the hospital soon for a full medical checkup. Feng Shua said, dead serious. Wang Yuanhang froze, caught off guard by the sudden suggestion. Why would you give me such advice? He asked, confused. Of course, Feng Shua couldn't tell him. Asterisk, in my past life, you died of lung cancer. If you'd gone to the hospital earlier, you might have caught it in time. Asterisk. After a brief pause, he replied, you're not yet 50, but I see gray hair and wrinkles, clear signs of overexertion. And your complexion doesn't look good. There's clearly something wrong with your health. Just get checked, for your own peace of mind. As the saying goes, health is the foundation of revolution. If your body fails, how can you continue serving the people? As soon as Feng Shua finished speaking, Manager Fei's face darkened. Young man, what nonsense are you spouting in front of Director Wang? Our director is strong and healthy, right in his prime. Talking about health issues, that's terribly inauspicious. Wang Yuanhang raised a hand, stopping Manager Fei from saying more. A faint smile appeared on his face as he nodded and said, Mr. Feng, I appreciate your concern. But my health, I understand it best myself. My work is very busy, and it's not that I don't want to go for a checkup. I simply don't have the time. Well then, I have a meeting soon. I won't waste any more time. With that, Wang Yuanhang turned and walked out of the shop. In the blink of an eye, everyone had left, leaving only Feng Shua and the two others behind. Feng Shua had only done what he could, offered a well-meaning warning. Whether the other man chose to heed it or not was beyond his control. Though he had been reborn into this life, he was still only human, with limits to what he could change. All he could do was offer subtle hints when possible, just like with Long Wanqing. With everyone gone, Hu Yuren remained deeply unsettled. His eyes were locked onto the honor certificate in Feng Shua's hand. He opened his mouth several times, but each time hesitated and said nothing. Feng Shua quickly noticed Hu Yuren's expression. Looking down at the certificate in his own hand, he immediately understood. With a slight smile, he held it out to Hu Yuren. Old brother Hu, if you like this thing, take it. Hu Yuren was stunned. He couldn't believe Feng Shua would just give away such a valuable certificate for free. He had planned to offer money, buy it from Feng Shua. But before he could even speak, Feng Shua had already handed it to him voluntarily. After a moment of shock, Hu Yuren hastily shook his head. No, that can't be right. One shouldn't accept gifts without earning them. I absolutely cannot take it like this. Feng Shua shoved the certificate into his hands. To me, this thing is completely useless. But you can actually use it. Rather than let it sit idle and go to waste with me, better to give it to someone who can make good use of it. Certificates like this are just pieces of paper. When needed, they're treasures. When not, they're trash. Old brother Hu, don't feel awkward about it. Just pretend I threw it away, and you happened to pick it up. Hu Yuren stood there, holding the honor certificate, too moved to speak. After stammering silently for a long while, he finally said in a firm voice, all right, I'll take it. But this favor, I will repay. From this day forward, whether it's climbing a mountain of blades or diving into boiling oil, as long as you say the word, Brother Feng, I, Old Hu, will never hesitate. Chapter 26, Name Your Price. Feng Shua laughed heartily. Old Hu, we've met by fate, and it's been a pleasure getting to know you. We share the same spirit. You could even say we're friends. And between friends, there's no need to stand on ceremony. Though he said this, Feng Shua had his own considerations. What he said was true. This certificate was useless to him, since he never intended to stay in the food and beverage industry long term. He'd have almost zero dealings with farmers markets, grain bureaus, or agricultural products again. But for Hu Yuren, as a distributor, this certificate carried immense value. Holding it would give him serious credibility, allow cost savings, and open doors to higher profits. In fact, Feng Shua could easily sell the certificate to Hu Yuren and make a small profit. Given Hu's character, the price offered wouldn't be low. But if he did that, their friendship would become purely transactional, and they'd never truly connect on a deeper level. Hu Yuren was a sincere and down-to-earth man, someone Feng Shua believed was worth cultivating a genuine friendship with. If he decided to befriend this man, money should play no role. Trading a useless piece of paper for a lifelong friend? That was a deal that couldn't lose. With that matter settled, the next big challenge was meeting Long Wanqing face-to-face about selling the shop. A pivotal moment for Feng Shua. The next morning, Feng Shua met up with Hu Yuren and Qian Laoban, arranging to meet at Longjia Investment Management Company. To keep his focus sharp, Feng Shua gave his shop employees a day off, closing the business temporarily. He didn't want any unexpected disruptions during the crucial negotiation. Longjia Investment Management was quite large, renting an entire floor in a high-end office building located in Jiangzhou's commercial district. Neither Hu Yuren nor Qian Laoban had ever been somewhere so impressive. They were immediately awed. To them, a company of this scale must be incredibly powerful. Feng Shua, however, remained completely calm. He had seen far grander scenes. In his previous life, his net worth had exceeded tens of billions. Not just a floor, but entire business towers belonged to him. To him, what he saw today was nothing extraordinary. Soon, the three of them met Long Wanqing in a small conference room. Seeing two extra people, Long Wanqing wasn't surprised at all. She had already conducted thorough research and knew exactly who Hu Yuren and Qian Laoban were. Strictly speaking, the three of them were partners, though Feng Shua held the dominant position. Long Wanqing nodded politely at the trio and sat down opposite them. Then, without beating around the bush, she said directly, I don't like wasting time or playing games. I already know the basic situation of your shop, the operations, the revenue flow. Let's skip the formalities. What's your price? How much do you want to sell it for? Feng Shua smiled faintly and raised two fingers. Hu Yurin and Qian Laoban exchanged a glance and subtly nodded in agreement. 200,000 yuan. That seemed reasonable. After all, the shop premises weren't his, nor were the licenses. He only owned the soup-based recipe and the original concept. Getting 20,000 yuan for those might already be good. But unexpectedly, Fang Shuo slowly spoke up. My final offer, 20 million. Hu Yurin and Qian Laoban nearly collapsed right there. 20 million? Did he actually dare ask for that? Back when Qian Laoban bought this shop, he paid only a little over 10 million. Now Fang Shuo was demanding 20 million. Was he planning to sell the entire physical store along with it? Long Wanqing frowned. 20 million? You certainly have the nerve. I just said I hate wasting time. If you're going to throw out absurd figures like this, then we don't need to continue talking. Her tone carried clear irritation. Hu Yurin and Qian Laoban both tensed up internally. Fang Shuo had priced too high, upsetting her. This deal might fall through after all. Yet Fang Shuo remained calm and unhurried. Miss Long, since you've investigated my shop, you should already know how astonishing my daily revenue is. An average of 10,000 per day, not counting days off. And during holidays, festivals, or extended weekends, a single day's revenue can equal an entire week, or even half a month's worth. Given performance like this, is 20 million really unreasonable? A business attractive enough for you to consider investing in? I think my price isn't excessive at all. Fang Shuo's reasoning was solid, and his demeanor composed, completely unfazed by Long Wanqing's reaction. Long Wanqing couldn't help but look at him more closely, slightly stunned inside. She hadn't expected the young owner of a modest bullfrog hot pot restaurant to remain so calm during negotiations, displaying such confidence and poise. In truth, her anger just now had been completely feigned. When she learned that Fang Shuo wanted to sell the shop, she was determined to secure it at all costs and take possession as quickly as possible. Of course, acquiring the shop was a must, but costs also needed to be kept to an absolute minimum. That's why she had pretended to be angry earlier, making the other side believe the deal might fall through, hoping they would panic and lose their composure. But she hadn't expected Fang Shuo to remain completely unmoved, calmly laying out an analysis of his business performance instead. This caused Long Wanqing to regard Fang Shuo with slightly higher regard. Mr. Fang, it's true that your shop generates substantial daily revenue. However, market conditions change in the blink of an eye. At present, you simply have a first-mover advantage. There are no competitors yet. Your business model isn't impossible to replicate. Once others figure out how it works, similar shops will pop up. Once competition begins, maintaining profits will become difficult. Here's my offer, 50,000 yuan. This is my final and maximum offer. If you find it acceptable, we sign the contract. If not, then I won't press further. Hu Yurin and Qian Laoban heard these words and simultaneously turned to look at Fang Shuo. They both sensed that Long Wanqing was issuing a final ultimatum. If Fang Shuo persisted stubbornly, she would likely walk away for good. They grew anxious inside, silently hoping Fang Shuo would just nod and agree. By this point, whatever they could get was what they'd get. The key was securing something tangible. Besides, both Hu Yurin and Qian Laoban felt that 50,000 yuan was already sufficient. With that amount, Fang Shuo could easily start an entirely different venture. But Fang Shuo's expression darkened. He said, Miss Long, speaking like that is meaningless. The greatest value in creativity lies in being able to think of things others cannot. Moreover, my shop opened early, giving me full control of the initial advantage. You're right, the market changes rapidly. But securing the lead ahead of time is equally crucial. Even if competitors emerge, they'll only be able to capture a small portion of customers. The majority of the market remains firmly in my hands. He paused here, putting on an expression of painful reluctance. Fine. I'll make one concession, 150,000 yuan. No lower than 150,000. Not a single fin less. Chapter 27. How about a wager? At this point, Hu Yurin and Boss Qian couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. Fang Shuo and Long Wanqing were trading blows, neither willing to back down, refusing to compromise easily. If this continued, not only would the deal fall through, but their relationship might sour beyond repair. Both men could clearly see that anyone who could run a business in a place like this, Long Wanqing, must be exceptionally capable and powerful. To provoke her would be a loss far outweighing any gain. Just when they thought Long Wanqing might slam the table and walk out, she shook her head instead and said, 80,000. No more than 80,000. That's my bottom line. If you try to go higher, we have nothing left to discuss. Hu Yurin and Boss Qian were stunned. Hadn't Long Wanqing just said 5,000 was her absolute limit? Why had it suddenly jumped to 80,000? Still, they figured this must be her final offer. Fang Shuo should take it and call it a win. After all, 80,000 was already far beyond their expectations. But what they didn't realize was that Fang Shuo and Long Wanqing weren't really at odds at all. One was determined to buy, the other resolute to sell. There was never any real risk of the deal collapsing. Their fierce opposition was merely an act, a negotiation tactic. In any negotiation, you can give up many things, but never the upper hand. The more dominant you appear, the more control you maintain. Fang Shuo, seasoned in the business world, understood this perfectly. And Long Wanqing, a veteran heavyweight from the investment banking world, had long mastered the art of negotiation to near perfection. So while they appeared ready to clash, they were actually engaged in a silent contest of wills. Each was probing the other's limits, driving their own bargains. Even though Long Wanqing had claimed earlier that she disliked beating around the bush, when has any serious deal ever been conducted with blunt honesty? Haggling. That's what business is about. 120,000. Fang Shuo pushed again. Miss Long, if I weren't desperate for cash, I wouldn't even consider selling my shop. 120,000. I'll let it go just to make a friend. Your business is vast and prosperous. Surely an extra 40,000 won't hurt. Long Wanqing sneered. Mr. Fong, you're mistaken. What do you mean vast and prosperous? And what makes you think 40,000 means nothing to me? My money wasn't blown in by the wind. It was earned through hard work. Fine, she added after a pause. Since you've put it this way, let's meet in the middle. 100,000. If you still aren't satisfied, then I'm afraid I'll have to walk away. Now, at last, Fong Shuo allowed a faint smile to spread across his face. Leaning back in his chair, he said, deal. Long Wanqing remained expressionless, her face still icy and indifferent. But inside, she was deeply shaken. Since entering the business world at 18, she'd fought her way through nearly a decade of cutthroat dealings. In all that time, she'd rarely met anyone on equal footing at the negotiating table. Never did she imagine that a mere owner of a Bullfrog hot pot restaurant could be such a master negotiator. In every past negotiation, she'd firmly held control, leading her opponents by the nose. Yet against Fong Shuo, she hadn't gained a single advantage. Though the deal had gone through, she felt no joy. She called over her secretary and handed Fong Shuo the pre-drafted agreement to sign. Fong Shuo flipped through the document and noticed the amount had already been typed in, exactly 100,000 to the yuan. That meant Long Wanqing's true bottom line had always been 100,000. Without hesitation, Fong Shuo signed his name. His shop was now officially sold. Later, Long Wanqing purchased the property rights, business license, health permits, and fire safety certificates for 200,000 yuan. Thus, Long Wanqing completely acquired the Bullfrog hot pot restaurant. After the transaction concluded, Fong Shuo stood up and extended his right hand. Pleasure doing business with you. Long Wanqing also rose and gave his hand a light shake. Then she pulled a bank card from her pocket and handed it to him. This card has 50,000 yuan, initial advance payment. The remaining 100,000 will be transferred when we complete the formal handover. Fong Shuo froze. Another 100,000? Shouldn't it be 50,000? Long Wanqing replied calmly. You saved my life. Consider the extra 50,000 a token of gratitude. Understanding dawned on Fong Shuo. Though still somewhat skeptical, Long Wanqing had at least confirmed that what he'd said was true. This additional 50,000 was thanks for warning her, helping her avoid disaster. Fair and firm, repaying debts of gratitude without delay, Long Wanqing, though a woman, carried herself with remarkable decisiveness. This trait resonated well with Fong Shuo. He didn't decline. He took the card without protest. He accepted the money without guilt, and he also realized Long Wanqing didn't want to owe anyone favors. By paying outright, she'd settled the debt, clean and final. There's just one thing I still don't quite understand. How did you know my car would break down? Sorry, but I'm an atheist. I believe that behind every seemingly irrational event, there's always some human factor at play. I think you must know something, which is why I'd like to hear it from you. Fong Shuo looked at her, momentarily unsure how to respond. He hadn't expected Long Wanqing to dig this deep. The secret of his rebirth into a second life was something he could never reveal. Besides, even if he did tell her, no one would believe him anyway. Faced with Long Wanqing's question, Fong Shuo had no choice but to keep being deliberately vague. Miss Long, whether you believe it or not, techniques like physiognomy and feng shui do exist. They're rigorous sciences, people just misunderstand them. Long Wanqing didn't believe a word of what Fong Shuo said. Fortunately, she didn't seem intent on pressing further. She simply smiled faintly and said, I really can't bring myself to believe in these things. But fine, if you don't want to talk about it, I won't force you. At that moment, Long Wanqing's secretary walked in carrying a stack of folders. Director Long, these documents need your urgent signature. The finance department has been pushing me hard. I really have no choice. Long Wanqing took the folders and began flipping them open to sign. Fong Shuo had sharp eyes. He immediately noticed the words Millennium Industries printed on the cover of one folder. That company name sounded familiar. He felt he'd seen it somewhere before. He racked his brain, and suddenly it came back to him. Millennium Industries had once been a shining star in Jiangzhou City. Starting as a small workshop, it gradually expanded into a sizable industrial enterprise. Later, the company successfully secured investment and went public, becoming a listed company. But not long after, it was exposed for manufacturing counterfeit and substandard products, destroying its reputation overnight. Even worse, the Securities Regulatory Commission discovered the company had falsified its financial statements. In the end, the legal representative was prosecuted, and the company was forced to delist. The venture capital firm that had invested in it suffered massive losses and ultimately had to withdraw from the financial industry in disgrace. Chapter 28. I Lost. Fong Shuo had learned the full story in his previous life through financial news reports. This Millennium Industries was truly disastrous. Not only had it swindled him, but it had also cheated shareholders and even defrauded venture capital firms. Miss Long, you don't believe in feng shui or divination, right? Let's make a bet then. Let's see if my calculation holds true. I can prove to you with facts that metaphysics and feng shui are indeed rigorous sciences. Long Wanqing looked up at Fong Shuo. What do you want to bet on? Let's bet on the investment you're about to make in Millennium Industries. I just did a quick calculation, and this company has serious problems. Anyone who invests in it will suffer great misfortune. Fong Shuo put on an exaggeratedly mystical expression. Of course, you're free not to believe me. But as you said yourself, your money didn't come from thin air. Sometimes it's better to err on the side of caution. Why not conduct a thorough investigation first? Long Wanqing set down her pen and fixed her gaze on Fong Shuo's face. After a long silence, she finally nodded. All right, I'll take your bet. I'll send people to investigate Millennium Industries thoroughly. If they really do have problems, then I'll... She paused, then continued. I'll add another 150,000 to buy your shop. Feng Shuo snapped his fingers. Deal. Hold on, Long Wanqing interjected. What if you lose? Then you won't need to give me the next 100,000, and I'll return this 50,000 to you. Feng Shuo said casually, completely relaxed. Hearing this, Hu Yuren and Boss Qian were both stunned. Long Wanqing ran a company. She came from a wealthy family. Even if she lost 150,000, it wouldn't be much of a blow to her. But Feng Shuo was different. He didn't have nearly enough money to afford such a reckless gamble. Hu Yuren quickly tugged at his sleeve. Brother Feng, don't act rashly. Please think twice. Boss Qian also urged him. Young man, sometimes losing everything over pride ruins your whole life. Stay calm. 150,000 isn't a small sum. Feng Shuo merely shrugged it off. Elder brothers, have a little faith in me, will you? Have I ever failed at anything I set out to do? Trust me, I'm going to win this one for sure. Hearing Feng Shuo's words, Long Wanqing suddenly smiled. You're so confident in yourself? Now I'm actually curious about how our bet will turn out. Feng Shuo gave a faint smile, said nothing more, and walked out of the meeting room. Hu Yuren and Boss Qian bowed slightly toward Long Wanqing before hurrying after him. After they left, Long Wanqing immediately ordered the finance department to suspend investment in Millennium Industries and dispatched investigators to conduct undercover inspections. A seasoned businesswoman, Long Wanqing was sharp and astute. She sent two separate teams. One conducted open, high-profile inquiries, while the other infiltrated the workshops of Millennium Industries to take photos and gather evidence secretly. After extensive overt and covert investigations, her team indeed discovered that Millennium Industries was smuggling counterfeit and substandard goods into a secret warehouse. Upon hearing the report, Long Wanqing was utterly shocked. Feng Shuo was practically clairvoyant. Everything turned out exactly as he predicted. Millennium Industries did have serious issues, mixing large quantities of fake and inferior products into their inventory. Once these products hit the market, consumers would inevitably notice. When the scandal broke, government authorities would launch surprise inspections, and Millennium Industries would collapse completely. As the venture investor, Longjia Investment Management Company would certainly be implicated. They would face investigations themselves, and the company could very well end in utter ruin because of this single mistake. Thinking of these consequences, Long Wanqing felt every pore on her body prickle with fear, cold sweat breaking out on her forehead. If she hadn't made this bet with Feng Shuo, she would have been completely ruined. Even if Longjia went bankrupt and she could still return to Longhai Group, that would completely contradict her original ambitions. She absolutely could not allow her company to fail. Long Wanqing was someone who never delayed action once a decision was made. She immediately ordered the company to halt the investment and begin recovering the initial funds already dispersed. However, this decision met with unanimous opposition from the company's senior management. The reason was simple. Millennium Industries had a strong reputation in Jiangzhou. The cooperation deal was listed as a key project for the second half of the year. Letters of intent had already been signed, investment agreements drafted. Everything was ready for final execution. If Longjia pulled out unilaterally now, it would severely damage the company's reputation and require them to pay a substantial penalty fee. The project was dead, and they'd also have to pay a huge compensation. Longjia had suffered a major loss, so it was no wonder the executives opposed her decision. But Long Wanqing didn't care about the money. She clearly understood this was a dead end. Continuing forward meant certain ruin. Unfortunately, although Longjia had been founded by Long Wanqing herself, she wasn't the only one with a say. The senior management had been pressuring her non-stop these past few days, making her increasingly anxious and unsettled. 2 days later, Feng Shuo came to Longjia Investment Management Company with Hu Yuren and Boss Qian. They had completed all transfer procedures and were here today to finalize the handover with Long Wanqing and collect the final payment. The handover process went smoothly and quickly. Within 5 minutes, everything was settled. Long Wanqing handed Feng Shuo a bank card. I accept the bet's outcome. You've won. I sent people to investigate, and Millennium Industries really does have problems. I've decided to terminate cooperation and recover our initial investment. Feng Shuo took the card with a smile. I told you, physiognomy is a rigorous science. Just because you don't believe in it doesn't mean it isn't real. Our country has a 5,000-year history. While time's progress and technology advances, a discipline surviving for millennia must have its reasons and value. Long Wanqing fell into deep thought for a moment, then finally nodded. You're right. Perhaps physiognomy really is a kind of science. I can't quite understand how it works. Maybe I just don't know enough about it. Feng Shuo smiled. I'm glad you see it that way. Through his smooth talk, he had finally dispelled Long Wanqing's doubts, successfully convincing her that he truly possessed accurate knowledge of face reading. They say once you tell a lie, you need more lies to cover it up, and that was absolutely true. But Feng Shuo considered these white lies, without any sense of guilt. Moreover, thanks to this bet, he'd gained an extra 150,000, a pleasant surprise. After carefully putting away the bank card, just as Feng Shuo was preparing to leave with Hu Yuren and Boss Qian, Long Wanqing's secretary hurried into the room. Ms. Long, bad news. Millennium Industries just sent us a legal notice. They're suing us for breach of contract. Hearing this, Long Wanqing's brow instantly furrowed. They actually want to sue us instead? What did the other executives say? The leadership says this problem was caused by you, Director Long, and insists you resolve it yourself, the secretary said timidly. Chapter 29, A Favor with the Flow. Although Feng Shuo only caught fragments of Long Wanqing's conversation with her secretary, he had already grasped the general situation. It was simple, really. Qinshi Industrial knew exactly why Longjia had suddenly terminated their cooperation. Fearing their shady dealings might be exposed, they decided to strike first, playing the victim and sending a legal notice to Longjia. Long Wanqing's face was dark with anger. The company's executives were always eager to share profits, but the moment trouble arose, each one backed off, leaving her to clean up the mess. Feng Shuo thought for a moment, then quietly instructed Hu Yurin and Boss Qian to step outside and wait. Then he turned to Long Wanqing with a smile. Miss Long, the trouble with Qinshi Industrial can actually be resolved quite easily. Long Wanqing looked at him. Tell me then, how would you solve it? Feng Shuo smiled. Qinshi Industrial has been falsifying records. That kind of thing won't stay hidden for long. Right now, you just need to take a firm stand and threaten them with a lawsuit. Civil litigation usually drags on for months. Both sides will need time to gather evidence. I guarantee that during this period, Qinshi's fraud will come to light. When it does, the entire industry will assume you must have known about their deception beforehand, which is why you cut ties with them. Long Wanqing pondered his words carefully. Her eyes lit up almost instantly. A rare smile briefly softened her cold expression as she nodded. You're right. How did I not think of that? Feng Shuo said. You're involved in this directly, while I'm an outsider. Sometimes things aren't clear when you're too close to them. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I'll take my leave now. With that, he turned and walked out. Based on Feng Shuo's memories from his previous life, Qinshi Industrial's fraud scandal would soon be exposed. As long as Long Wanqing could drag out the lawsuit just a little longer, all problems would resolve themselves naturally. The reason he gave her advice came down to two considerations. First, Long Wanqing was sharp-minded and highly capable, someone he might potentially work with in the future. Moreover, her status was special. She was the only daughter of Long Hai Group's chairman. There might someday be opportunities for deeper collaboration between them. By doing her a favor now, he was investing in the future. It cost him nothing but a few words, and even if the gesture never paid off, he'd lose nothing. This was a small kindness with minimal risk. Secondly, in his past life, Long Wanqing had died in a car accident, so the Qinshi affair had never touched her. But because Feng Shuo had changed fate and saved her, this matter now fell squarely into her hands. This was perhaps what people called the butterfly effect. History had shifted slightly due to Feng Shuo's actions, diverging from what he remembered. And since he himself was the cause of this deviation, he should do something to balance it out. That was why he chose to help Long Wanqing. How Longjia handled the matter was Long Wanqing's responsibility now. Feng Shuo only cared about his own affairs. Over the days he ran the Frog Hot Pot restaurant, he had earned around 280,000 yuan. Selling the shop brought another 100,000, totaling 380,000. Then there was the unexpected 150,000 yuan he'd won from the bet with Long Wanqing. That brought his total to 530,000 yuan. 530,000 yuan, a considerable sum in those days. If invested wisely in real estate, it could multiply many times over in the coming years. However, Feng Shuo knew it was still too early to enter the property market. The real boom wouldn't start for another year or two. He needed to use this period to accumulate even more initial capital. This amount would more than cover Guoguo's tuition and living expenses. But Feng Shuo wasn't satisfied with stopping there. This was merely the first step. He intended to at least double this sum, if not more. Returning to the shop, Feng Shuo gathered everyone together and announced the change in ownership. Though they hadn't worked together long, the staff genuinely liked him. He was generous and never nitpicked over trivial matters. He paid well and never deducted wages without cause. Everyone could feel he was a humane and fair boss, the kind worth following. Now that the owner had changed, no one knew whether the new boss would treat them the same way. Feng Shuo personally cooked several dishes, bought 2 bottles of good wine, and poured a glass for each person. Then he raised his cup and declared loudly, as the saying goes, all feasts must come to an end. Thank you all for your hard work these past days. But this isn't the end of our relationship. I'll be starting other ventures in the future. If circumstances allow, I'd be happy to have you join me again. I have all of your contact information. If fate allows, we might work together again in the future. I'll finish my drink. Everyone else, please feel free. After speaking, Feng Shuo downed the glass of wine in one gulp. Following the meal, everyone bid Feng Shuo a reluctant farewell. He cast one final, deep look at the Frog Hot Pot restaurant before turning away without hesitation. Though he felt a tinge of reluctance inside, he was fully aware that as a businessman, one must never grow emotionally attached to tools of profit. He checked the time. Guoguo should be getting out of school soon. He went to pick her up and brought her back home. Then he went into the kitchen to prepare a few dishes, waiting for Lin Feng to return. When Lin Feng came home, Feng Shuo was busy cooking. Hearing her enter, he poked his head out and said, "You're back? Good. When we eat, I've got something to tell you." Lin Feng didn't respond. Instead, she quietly went into her room and changed out of her coat. She seemed burdened with thoughts, her mood low. She had something heavy on her mind. Today, Guan Yunshui had finally made his move. He asked her to divorce Feng Shuo and marry him. His proposal stirred something in her. She and Feng Shuo had long been incompatible. Divorce was inevitable. Yet now that the moment had come, she suddenly found herself unable to speak. And then there was Guoguo. Though raising her would complicate a new marriage, Guoguo was still the child of her flesh and blood. She couldn't help but feel some attachment. All the way home, she'd been wondering how to bring it up. After changing clothes, she stepped out of the room and took a deep breath, preparing to have an honest talk with Feng Shuo. But just then, the house phone rang. Lin Feng had no choice but to answer it first. It was the principal from the private elementary school. Guoguo had been attending trial classes for a while now, and he wanted to ask Feng Shuo when they could formalize her enrollment. After hanging up, Lin Fang's face turned pale. She had been lying. All that talk about her daughter already attending the private school was nonsense. Guogua had only been trying it out. Fang Shuo hadn't completed any official enrollment procedures at all. Chapter 30. Filing for divorce. Actually, the call was originally meant for Fang Shuo's mobile phone, but he didn't hear it because he was busy in the kitchen. The principal had no choice but to call the house instead. By coincidence, Lin Fang happened to answer the phone, which was how she found out about the trial enrollment. She had thought that Fang Shuo had changed. These past few days, she'd been wavering back and forth. On one side was the wealthy, handsome pursuit of Guan Yunshui. On the other was her husband of many years. She had believed that Fang Shuo had recently improved, that he wasn't as depressed or self-destructive as before. But she never expected that it had all been a lie. The most terrifying thing about a person is when they're full of lies. At this moment, Lin Fang felt not only anger, but deep disappointment, and even despair. Meanwhile, Fang Shuo had already brought the dishes to the table and was preparing to call Guogui out for dinner. Lin Fang stopped him. Fang Shuo, wait a moment. I have something I need to talk to you about. Fang Shuo looked at her. What is it? Why did you come home so early today? You usually stay late at work, don't you? Lin Fang struggled to keep her emotions under control as she asked. Fang Shuo smiled faintly. Starting tomorrow, I won't be going to the shop anymore. Because the store has already been sold. Lin Fang's face turned pale, her disappointment growing stronger. How long had he even worked there? And now once again unemployed, with no job at all. After a moment of silence, she took a deep breath and finally said what had been weighing on her heart. Today, Guan Yunshui confronted me directly. He wants me to leave you and be with him. Upon hearing these words, Fang Shuo's expression immediately darkened. What was coming had arrived nonetheless. Even though he had lived again, nothing had truly changed. He could save his daughter's life, but he couldn't win back Lin Fang's heart. Once someone's heart has changed, not even 10 oxen can pull them back. Yet Fang Shuo remained calm. He didn't scream or argue, merely looking at Lin Fang, waiting for her to continue. Guan Yunshui pursuing me isn't exactly a secret anymore. I've been hesitating all along because we've been married for so many years, and we have Guogua. Unless absolutely necessary, I wouldn't lightly take the path of divorce. But you've disappointed me again and again, broken my heart, caused me pain. For our daughter's chance to attend a good elementary school, I gave up my pride and begged my parents. And you? You can't even let go of your pitiful sense of dignity. Fine, whatever. Everyone has their own ambitions, can't force anyone. But why did you lie to me about Guogua already attending a private elementary school? Play is play, jokes are jokes, but don't joke about our daughter's future. You can lie to me if you want, but no matter how despicable you become, you shouldn't toy with Guogua's education. Fang Shuo, I'm completely disappointed in you. In this household, I see no hope at all. Let's get a divorce. Lin Fang finally spoke the 3 fateful words. Fang Shuo suddenly gave a calm smile. You've wanted to say this for a long time, haven't you? You've just been holding back. Now you've finally said it. Must feel a little lighter, right? If you want a divorce, I have no objections. But one condition, Guogua must come with me. If you agree, we can go to the Civil Affairs Bureau anytime to complete the procedures. Fang Shuo's attitude surprised Lin Fang. She had assumed that if she proposed divorce, he would resist fiercely, throw a tantrum. Instead, he calmly agreed, demanding only custody of their daughter, making no other requests. Is there anything else? Fang Shuo continued. If not, I'll call Guogua out for dinner. We should avoid mentioning the divorce in front of her for now. I'm afraid she won't be able to accept it immediately. I'll find the right opportunity to tell her. With that, Fang Shuo walked toward Guogua's room to call her for dinner. That Fang Shuo didn't oppose the divorce should have made her happy. He was the man she'd long wished to escape, after all. Soon she could move on to a better life. Yet she felt no joy whatsoever. When she brought up divorce, Fang Shuo seemed too calm, almost indifferent. Didn't he have even a trace of attachment to her? That night, Lin Fang couldn't sleep. Tossing and turning, memories of her life with Fang Shuo flashed through her mind like a slideshow. At that moment, she suddenly felt regret over the decision to divorce. After so many years together, suddenly separating, it was impossible not to feel some sadness. And after the split, she wouldn't be able to see Guogua every day anymore. She couldn't help but wonder, was her decision to divorce too hasty? The next morning, Lin Fang left home early for work. After sending Guogua to school, Fang Shuo went straight to the principal and finalized her enrollment. At the same time, he paid the full annual tuition, 60,000 yuan in total. Starting tomorrow, he wouldn't have to send his daughter to school every day either, since the school had a bus. He only needed to take Guogua to the front door. The principal had never seen a parent pay so quickly and willingly. The smile on his face wrinkled deeply. He immediately promised Fang Shuo with a slap on the chest that he would assign the best teacher available to help Guogua catch up on the lessons she'd missed. First grade mostly covered basic courses. Even if some material was missed, it wasn't a big issue. She could gradually make it up later. This was exactly why Fang Shuo felt confident letting his daughter start school early. With no need to go to the shop today, Fang Shuo returned home directly from the school and cleaned the entire house from top to bottom. He glanced around at the furniture and appliances. Everything had been bought back when they got married. After so many years of use, they had become quite old. In the past, they couldn't afford replacements due to financial strain. But now things were different. Fang Shuo had money, and replacing these outdated items was something he could do in an instant. Even though he was about to divorce Lin Fang, Fang Shuo still wanted to leave her something. After all, even a single day as husband and wife carried 100 days of kindness. They had once shared a happy and joyful life together. Besides, Lin Fang was still Guogua's biological mother. For that reason alone, Feng Shuo couldn't possibly see her as an enemy. At this time, e-commerce was still in its infancy, and online shopping remained relatively niche. But having lived 2 lifetimes, Feng Shuo understood the convenience of internet shopping. Most importantly, online retailers offered trade-in programs for old items. This way, he wouldn't just save time and energy, avoiding the hassle of disposing of old furniture himself. He could also get discounts or credits toward new purchases. It was truly a win-win situation. He filled in the delivery address and paid the full amount up front. According to regulations, the old appliances and furniture would be collected first, and the new ones delivered the following day. Soon enough, workers arrived at the door and hauled away all the old appliances, as well as the worn-out sofa and coffee table. They even scheduled the delivery time for the next day. The sofa was where Feng Shuo usually slept, and now that it was gone, he'd have to sleep on the floor temporarily. By afternoon, Guoguo was directly brought home by the school bus. As soon as she stepped off, her face lit up with excitement. "Daddy, the school gave me my uniform today. Look, is it pretty?" Chapter 31 Meeting at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Feng Shuo looked over and saw that Guoguo had already put on her school uniform. Her name was embroidered on it. No wonder the little girl was so delighted. Beautiful. Feng Shuo picked Guoguo up and carried her back home. Seeing the living room completely empty, Guoguo exclaimed in surprise. "Dad, where did all our furniture go? Where's the TV? The sofa?" Feng Shuo smiled and said, "The old furniture has been collected by someone we called. I bought new ones. They'll be delivered tomorrow. Guoguo can watch a brand new TV set tomorrow." Guoguo clapped her hands excitedly. "That's great. Finally, I can watch a new TV." Though only in first grade, Guoguo had missed a month of school, so her teacher assigned her some homework. Feng Shuo stayed beside Guoguo, guiding her step by step, and soon they finished all the assignments. Just as he was about to head to the kitchen to prepare dinner, he suddenly heard a loud clatter from outside. He rushed out immediately and saw Lin Feng standing there, pale-faced, everything in her hands now scattered on the ground. Was the house broken into? Why are all the furnishings gone? Call the police. Call them right away. Lin Feng shrieked the moment she saw Feng Shuo. Feng Shuo quickly explained, "Calm down. We weren't robbed. I arranged for the old furniture to be taken away. I've bought new pieces." "You what? You sold all the furniture, all the appliances?" Lin Feng stared at him in disbelief. You actually sold everything?" Before Feng Shuo could respond, she pointed at him with a trembling hand and accused, "I finally get it. Now I see why you agreed to divorce so easily, without any resistance. You'd already planned this ahead of time, didn't you? Are you thinking of selling off everything, emptying the house, and transferring all the money to your own account? That's disposing of marital property." "Feng Shuo, I never thought you'd stoop this low." Feng Shuo knew Lin Feng had misunderstood. He tried to explain, "You're wrong. I recycled the old appliances and furniture because I bought new ones. They gave me credit for trading in the old items." But Lin Feng wouldn't hear his explanation. Enraged, she shouted, "Stop lying to me. I won't fall for your tricks ever again. Time and again you've deceived me, made me disappointed. I've lost all faith in you. I won't drag this out anymore. I can't stand being in this house another single day. We're finalizing the divorce tomorrow morning, at the Civil Affairs Bureau." With that, Lin Feng stormed into the bedroom, stuffed all her personal belongings into a large suitcase, and prepared to leave. At that moment, Guoguo came out of her room, drawn by the noise. She looked timidly at Lin Feng and asked, "Mommy, why are you fighting with Daddy?" Lin Feng paused and turned toward Guoguo. Guoguo had already changed out of her school uniform and carefully folded it. Now she was wearing her casual home clothes. "Mommy isn't fighting with Daddy," Lin Feng lied, unable to bear telling Guoguo the truth. "Mommy just needs to go on a business trip. You stay home and be a good girl, okay?" Guoguo murmured, "Oh," then waved shyly at her mother. Lin Feng looked at Guoguo one last wistful time before resolutely dragging her suitcase out the door. Feng Shuo let out a long sigh and shook his head. Lin Feng's mind was too fixed in its assumptions. No matter what he said, she wouldn't believe him. Not long after, Feng Shuo heard the roar of an engine. He stood by the window and looked down to see Lin Feng loading her suitcase into the trunk of a car. Guan Yunshui stepped out of the driver's seat with gentlemanly grace and opened the front passenger door. After Lin Feng got in, he pressed the accelerator and sped away. Feng Shuo couldn't help but sneer coldly. "So eager, aren't you?" Even though they had agreed to finalize things tomorrow, legally speaking, he and Lin Feng were still husband and wife. The next morning, after sending Guoguo off on the school bus, Feng Shuo soon received a call from the logistics company. They informed him that the new furniture and appliances would arrive at his place in about half an hour and asked him to stay home and wait. As Feng Shuo waited, Lin Feng called. "Feng Shuo, why haven't you come yet? Didn't we agree to meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau today?" Feng Shuo replied, "I'll be a bit late. The delivery company is bringing the new furniture. I told you yesterday. I replaced all the old furniture and appliances." Lin Feng fell silent for several seconds. Then she spoke in a slightly angered tone. "Enough. At this point, you're still full of lies. If you're a man, just be honest and stop making pathetic excuses. I'll wait one more hour. If you don't show up, don't blame me for taking legal action." She hung up. Feng Shuo let out a bitter laugh, but didn't take it too seriously. About 20 minutes later, the delivery truck arrived. Online purchases of appliances and furniture weren't very common yet, so logistics companies didn't have many deliveries each day. The workers wanted to finish early and head home, which is why they arrived so early in the morning. Once e-commerce boomed later on and order volumes surged, deliveries wouldn't be this quick anymore. Feng Shuo handed the deliverymen a pack of Zhonghua cigarettes and a 200 yuan tip in advance. Their faces immediately lit up, and they worked especially hard. They handled everything gently while moving items and precisely followed Feng Shua's instructions to place the furniture exactly where he wanted. After unloading and neatly arranging everything, Feng Shua gave them a few bottles of drinks. The workers thanked him repeatedly, then left feeling thoroughly satisfied. Right after they left, Lin Feng called again. Feng Shua, give me a straight answer. Will you come or not? I'm coming. I'll leave right now, Feng Shua sighed. Lin Feng had left in such a hurry that she hadn't taken many of her belongings. Feng Shua retrieved the household registration book from the drawer, both of their marriage certificates, and his ID card. Without these items, they wouldn't be able to finalize the divorce today. Before leaving, Feng Shua glanced back at the living room, now completely transformed, then closed the door and walked away. He exited the residential complex and headed to the roadside to hail a taxi. But just then, a red Audi TT pulled up in front of him. The window automatically rolled down, revealing a cold yet breathtakingly beautiful face. Mr. Feng? What a coincidence. What are you doing here? Feng Shua recognized her instantly. It was Long Wanqing. He felt a bit surprised too. My home is right here. Miss Long, are you running errands nearby? Yes, Long Wanqing nodded. Where are you heading, Mr. Feng? Jiangzhou Civil Affairs Bureau. Long Wanqing clearly hesitated for a moment, but quickly regained her composure. How coincidental. I happen to be passing by there. Let me give you a ride. Feng Shua didn't refuse her offer. He accepted readily and opened the door himself to get in. Contrary to what one might expect, Long Wanqing's car carried none of the typical feminine touches, not a single cute ornament, pink seat cushion, or any of those small personal items women often keep around. There was only a pleasant scented car air freshener and a hair tie. Chapter 32. Not goodbye just yet. Feng Shua only glanced quickly, then swiftly turned his gaze away, looking out of the window instead, offering no further comment. After all, how someone decorated their car was a personal matter, and he had no right to judge. Mr. Feng, your previous advice was excellent. I heard that not long ago, a reporter went undercover at Millennium Industries and obtained a large amount of first-hand information. It won't be long before their fraud is exposed. Once that happens, society's attention will shift entirely to this scandal. Our company won't just avoid paying compensation. We'll actually gain the upper hand in public opinion. This truly is a win-win strategy. I really ought to thank you properly. Feng Shua gave a faint smile. I merely offered a casual suggestion. There's no need to feel indebted. By the way, since you've sold the shop, what are your plans next? Whatever you decide to do, just let me know. If the project is promising, I can provide financial support. After several interactions, Long Wanqing had begun to take an interest in Feng Shua. To her, he seemed intelligent and sharp, quick-witted, and possessing uncommon insight. The most astonishing thing was, he somehow appeared to genuinely practice physiognomy and fortune-telling, capable of foreseeing the future. This gave Feng Shua an unconscious aura of mystery. Thus, she sincerely hoped that he would start something new soon, giving them a chance to collaborate. She had a hunch. If she and Feng Shua ever teamed up, they could achieve something extraordinary. Oh, for now, I just want to take a break. I haven't decided what to do next. You know, running a restaurant is exhausting. The past few weeks with the Frog Hot Pot shop kept me completely worn out. People aren't machines. They can't operate beyond their limits continuously. You have to rest when needed. If you work yourself into collapse, what good is money? Feng Shua chuckled and said, there's a joke about a man who works hard his whole life and amasses great wealth, only to die prematurely from overwork. Then his wife takes all that money, keeps several young lovers, and lives like a wealthy socialite. It teaches us a lesson. Among all things in life, your life itself is most precious. When you're gone, someone else will sleep with your wife, beat your kids, spend your money, and call you a fool. The original punchline used a ruder word than fool, but in front of Long Wanqing, Feng Shua refrained from vulgarity and substituted it on the spot. Long Wanqing couldn't help but burst into laughter. Though she usually maintained a stern expression, giving off an untouchable vibe, once she laughed, her beauty outshone even the legendary four great beauties of ancient China. Feng Shua had assumed she never laughed, yet such a simple joke had made her giggle. Where did you hear that joke? Long Wanqing asked, quickly regaining her composure. But honestly, though crude, it carries real truth. Sounds quite reasonable, actually. Looks like I should pay more attention to my health too. With that light-hearted joke, the distance between them instantly shortened. Though they didn't speak much afterward, the atmosphere remained comfortable and free of awkwardness. The civil affairs office wasn't far. About 10 minutes later, they arrived at their destination. At that moment, Lin Feng and Guan Yunshui were waiting at the entrance of the office, and Lin Feng already wore an impatient look on her face. Thanks, I'm here, Feng Shua said politely, unfastened his seatbelt, and stepped out of the car. Lin Feng and Guan Yunshui never expected Feng Shua to exit from a red Audi TT, and Lin Feng noticed, to her surprise, that the driver was a stunningly beautiful woman. In her memory, Feng Shua rarely interacted with women. He hardly associated with any females at all. Yet now, he had arrived riding in a gorgeous woman's car. What was this supposed to mean? Was he showing off? Who was this woman? Could she be someone Feng Shua had paid to accompany him? As Lin Feng puzzled over these thoughts, Guan Yunshui suddenly blurted out, "Oh, isn't this Miss Long Wanqing, CEO of Longjia Investment Management Company?" Immediately, he rushed to the side of the Audi, pulled a business card from his pocket, and with a fawning expression said, "Director Long, what an honor to meet you. I never expected to see you here. I'm Guan Yunshui from Shifei Industrial Company, Limited. Here's my card." Long Wanqing glanced at him coldly and asked, "What do you want?" "Well, you see, our Shifei Industrial is hoping to collaborate with you. seeking investment from your company. However, your firm hasn't approved our proposal yet, so I came to inquire about the status. Long Wanqing replied indifferently. I'm sorry, but that matter isn't under my jurisdiction. If you wish to follow up on project progress, please speak with the relevant person in charge of the project department. Approaching me is pointless. I'm busy, don't waste my time. After speaking, she showed no mercy at all and pressed the accelerator. The exhaust roared furiously into the sky as the red Audi TT shot forward like a bolt of lightning, speeding away in an instant. Guan Yunshui was left standing there, still holding his business card, his face filled with embarrassment. Fang Shua ignored it completely, instead turning to Lin Fang with a calm expression and saying, sorry for keeping you waiting. You left in such a hurry yesterday that you didn't take much. But don't worry,